You are listening to the Mountainside Podcast, and joining us in studio is my good friend, Ben Strahan. He's a federal Hotshot Superintendent running one of the most elite hotshot wildland firefighting crews in the country, and it was an absolute privilege and honor to have him here in studio. He traveled all the way from Northern California to hang out with us. This is our longest podcast to date. We had a great conversation. We did a deep dive on so many things. There's a lot to unpack in this episode, and I hope you enjoy our conversation. Go shoot.
Yeah, let's do it.
Dude, thank you so much for being here.
Yes.
Welcome to Colorado. Made the trip, long-ass trip, just rolling into town. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, man, my pleasure. Thank you for having me, honestly.
Dude, the last episode that we recorded virtually.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to apologize to you because there were some technical difficulties that kind of happened during our episode. And we were having some great conversations, and then we had to divert because it's like you forget where to pick up or where you left off a little bit. And dude, I'm so stoked that you're here in person.
Yeah.
I really try not to even record virtually anymore. It's it's just that little bit of connection is just missing just a little bit. Not that, well, let me tell you this too. You are one of the most interesting people out of 140 episodes that I've talked to and couldn't wait to talk to again, man.
I appreciate that.
During that episode, you genuinely helped me out as a person just with God, am I looking at life the right way, right?
Sure.
You opened my eyes to some thought processes that I didn't have in my brain at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm fucking stoked to have you here today, dude.
Well, thank you. Fuck.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say. That's thank you for those compliments. I agree with you though. There's the podcast world just super interesting in general to me, right? I mean, we'll talk about how I'm trying to start one too at some point, but I think it's this shared perspective between individuals, I think maybe I said it last time we were talking, but I think that's how we collectively grow closer together as humans, is by sharing our perspective, staying away from opinions as much as possible and actually telling our story. So you get that in the virtual world for sure, but then there's those bumps like you're saying, I didn't even notice them, but so it's all good.
Right. Yeah. It's weird because you kind of get these blinders. You get it. I feel like you get a higher cognitive function when you put on the headphones.
For sure.
Maybe it's the Jocko Go. That wasn't an advertisement either, but I'm addicted to those. So the culmination of both, for a guy that doesn't have a very high IQ, this definitely enhances it, right? It's
For sure.
Or just I guess that little bit of you're going to be held accountable for what you say because you don't know who's listening to it. And sometimes that's totally gone out the window with me because I forget that we're even recording it.
Yeah.
I know that we're recording it, but in the back of my mind, I get so involved in the conversations or the people that I have in here.
Right.
And it's a very selfish thing for me.
Sure. I could see that.
I only bring in people that I genuinely want to talk to.
Right.
Because I've done the other side of that and it just doesn't.
Yeah.
It's rough, man. It's
yeah.
There's this uneasy tension. It's
wow. Yeah, it's interesting. I like that. I like what you said right there about the accountability piece. When I do public speaking or even now, it's one of those things that it's within my being that I'm trying to constantly maintain is speaking truthfully always, right? Especially as a man, and not lying, not even beating around the bush, but being direct, maybe sometimes softly direct, but these spaces for sure, if done correctly, gives you the ability to express yourself from an authentic place. In person's way better, obviously, being able to feel each other's energy right now and allowing that to shape whatever this is going to turn into, is pretty fucking beautiful in my opinion.
No, it's been awesome. And I guess on the accountability side, firsthand, it's helped me to really okay, I've mentioned something publicly that I'm going to do. Now I actually have to go do it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Where I could come up with an excuse or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's been one aspect. But I think the thing that lingers the most in the back of my mind is, you know, I've had a career in large entertainment for a long time, live entertainment. And when you have that sort of career, there's all these film crews that are nowadays, especially, that are filming like documentaries and stuff. And they want you to sign these NDAs and be a part of it. And maybe they'll even pay you a little bit extra or whatever to be in it. And then they want to do like the behind the scenes footage and all that sort of stuff. And I always just veered away from it. I was like, I always just want to be the guy in the shadows. I don't want people knowing who I am when I get off the plane. I don't want...
Why?
I think because they really took it out of context, right? Like they made the guys in the crew that I work with, guys that work their asses off for 20 hours a day, you know, whether they're in high steel at 110 feet, you know, in a rig, pulling up chain hoists, or, you know, unloading trucks at 2 o'clock or loading trucks at 2 o'clock in the morning in the freezing cold in the middle of Europe, you know, at 3 in the morning in Germany or something is fucking brutal. Like, you know, guys getting frostbite, shit like that. You know what I mean? So like there's some suffering that goes along with it. And I'm not saying that it's like this horrible career. Everybody loves their job and that's why they're there, you know? But those film crews would turn around and make it depict like you're just a bunch of jackasses fucking off.
Party boys.
They would take the little chirping back and forth or our camaraderie that we'd have and that sort of thing, you know, us giving each other shit, because that is funny, man. Yeah. From an outsider's perspective, that's like the best, right?
Yeah,
and,
totally.
So they would take that all out of context, and then every one of these DVDs, it was just like, look at these idiots that work backstage. That's how I felt. Like they didn't actually depict what we did or the sweat dripping off your brow or anything like that, you know? So
yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I guess I always stayed away from that for the sheer fact that I thought, you know, at some point, this is kind of my time stamp in the perceived now, or you could call it the future even. Right? Like after I'm dead and 6 feet underground and buried, like people are going to go back and be able to see some of this. And I really want that to be portrayed in the right way, I guess. Yeah. So when I started the podcast, I went to my close immediate family first. And I was like, hey, this might come with some implications because I'm going to be truthful.
Yes.
And I kind of want your guys' blessing. Like this might put you guys, you know, in some sort of situation, because if I'm going to do this, I want it to be 100% truthful. Right. Like all the cards on the table. Yeah. I'm going to cry when I want to cry. I'm going to laugh when I want to laugh. I'm going to tell you my opinion. Like
that's what's up.
That's kind of what's going on in the back of my mind. So I hope at some point when my kids do miss me or something, that these things will still be around, that they can go back and listen to or something, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, like a legacy of some sort.
Yeah, because I feel like the conversations that I even have in here, they're conversations you can't have with a child at some point. Sure. You know what I mean? Like
kind of like a really interesting thing too, because it's like, you know, we want people to kind of like know who we are at like a soul level, versus like the superficial things that we're up to and or dealing with in our lives, but actually like knowing us. And I think that this is a great opportunity for, like, this platform is a good opportunity for you to like share your interests with people, like what you're actually into, like your vulnerabilities, like all that shit, right? And all it makes you a better individual, but it also like gives people a glimpse into the actual person you are. And I think that expression is, I mean, that's what's up. I mean, that's what we're all kind of searching for. No one wants to be hiding behind our job and like whatever, identifying with our job. We're so much more.
You talked about that last time, and that hit really hard home, because there's so many people that do. It's like, I'm an electrician or I'm a, you know?
Yeah. And then you could even take that on a deeper level, honestly. And you can look at your family dynamic and see whether or not they are identifying with you. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
And so it's like, even from like, the healing work I do in the background, like it's about also encouraging people to make sure that they're not just identifying with a job necessarily, but like whatever partners they have, or even your kids, or like whatever it is, and trying to give them the opportunity to figure out exactly what they want in life so they can express themselves the way they want to.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with you. I think, another thing that we talked about the last time that really hit home, and it was something that I knew in the back of my mind, but you really drove it home, was the neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
Am I saying that correct?
Yep.
Of a child and how long they have it, and then into their teenage years. And it's like, dude, you hit me hard and heavy. that whole entire pod. I urge anybody, go back and listen. I believe it's episode 121.
Yeah.
Jeremy, you might have to look this up, but like we did a deep dive on a lot of different shit, and it was just fucking epic, man. So,
yeah.
But yeah, no, I want my kids to identify with I don't want them to identify with anything, honestly. I just want them to be themselves.
That's what's up. Yeah.
And follow their drive and their, now are there certain things that I've influenced them in? 100%, dude. Like,
absolutely.
My son likes to fly fish because I like to fly fish. He likes to shoot archery because I like to shoot archery. But then he's also got his own things. Like, I taught him how to play chess, and now all of a sudden we're going to chess tournaments. And it is I'm going to say this publicly.
Yeah.
It is one of the worst things I've been through as a father, man, because I do not fit in with any of these people, dude. I'm a rock and roll roadie. Like, I can't beat my kid at chess. And all these people want to have intellectual conversations, awesome. And I'm just, it's hard, right? Like, they're a different level than me, man. These are all like computer programmers or code writers, and like they all have these super. And then I tell them what I do, like, I have a podcast full time and do rock and roll shows, and then that just opens a whole another can of worms.
And that's funny though, but it's cool. I mean, I know you know this probably already, but who gives a fuck? Because at the end of the day, if you're authentically expressing yourself the way you want to, no one can touch you.
But it's weird. It's like a status thing. When you start getting in those cliques, like if you're at a country club or something, people are like, so what do you do for a living? That's like their first question. Like,
I know.
What can I get out of you? It's weird. It's like this
but it's
snaky, creepy, like kind of feeling that.
But they're actually asking you, like, what do you identify with? Right. Like, what do you identify with? Like, and we're sitting there, it's a cool experiment. It's actually one of my favorite experiments, is just like being in an environment. And just like, I'm a Wildland firefighter, right? I'm a Hotshot Superintendent. There's a bunch of, I don't think a lot of people would deem us the most intelligent people on the planet. You know what I mean? So a lot of times, we would label ourselves as like, I'm just a dumb firefighter. Like, well, first off, fuck that. Like, obviously I know more about things than just that. But a great experiment is just going into an environment, any environment like that, and just observing what's going on. Because even an individual asking, like, what do you do for a living, right, is not like they're interested in what you're identifying with because they want to compare their value to you, right? So they're gonna be looking at like, oh, well, I'm a CEO, like, you're just a podcaster, like, okay, I got an up on this guy. Podcaster. Like, yeah. But at the end of the day, like, we can break that down further as just asking a simple question, like, is this individual actually even expressing his authenticity, or is he just identifying again with something that's not going to last forever? Sure.
And I'm not saying all of them are like that, but a majority of them are. It's kind of that, like, keeping up with the Joneses.
Totally.
I see what you're saying, and it's a very competitive thing. They want to know what your son does. Like,
sure.
He's
like, currently beating you at chess. That's what he's doing.
But he's also like a defensive end, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
dope.
He's got that mentality. And Pee Wee football and stuff. I know it's just Pee Wee football, but you got to have that mentality, right? To just destroy everything. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, man. It's like,
it's an interesting world.
It is an interesting world, and like to mold your kids, and like, I know some parents that are so strict on, like, you have to do this because I did this, or you have to, and I guess I'm very lucky that I got a good partner, and we've taken a different approach and just chased whatever they wanted to do, like, hey, you want to be a chess state champion? Let's go. We got to go to these tournaments, we got to, whatever.
What's that like? How fast did he pick that up?
Well, it's
How old
crazy.
is
It
he
was
right now?
really, he's 10.
Okay.
So the pandemic was a major driving force to that. I mean, this
Yeah.
kid went to jiu-jitsu.
Uh-huh.
He, wrestled in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
He played soccer like crazy. He was into football, but didn't really play until like post-pandemic. But
is he big like you? Bigger kid?
He's a slender. He's more athletic than I've ever been.
But he's going to be big, like tall and big like you.
Oh
think?
yeah, I think he'll be tall.
Yeah. Okay.
So I guess the pandemic came along and it just kind of wrecked everything. And we were sitting around at Christmas and we had been playing checkers. And I was like, hey, if you want to take this to the next level, because he's a super intelligent kid, I was like, this is chess and this is all about strategy. And like, there's no luck in this. Like, it's just, it's you versus somebody else. And like, there's no like good luck. It's all strategy. Like, this is a war game. Like
planning and what's the next move? Yeah,
and he just dove like full in. And then I think that there was a little bit of the Queen's Gambit came along, and we're kind of transparent on letting our kids watch, like I'm not going to let them watch John Wick, but I've never even actually seen that. Like,
Damn,
I'm not really into movies all that much, honestly.
Me neither, really, actually.
I don't, my brain doesn't shut off.
Yeah.
Like I'd rather be in here, doing this or doing something creatively or being outside.
I hear you. Yeah.
So I don't really take in a lot of movies, but yeah, I think the Queen's Gambit was like a kind of a catalyst to it. And then he went down a rabbit hole of all these movies. Like, I know movies have influenced me as a kid. Like, that's why I was a roadie. It was like Metallica and like, Roadhouse, I wanted to be a bouncer,
Classic, dude.
Fucking Patrick Swayze is a pretty badass
classic.
motherfucker, like, so. So yeah, I don't know. So yeah, he just deep dove into that. And then there was a ton of opportunity during the pandemic because a lot of the classes that he took and stuff were online, and he started just really excelling to where he's gone way beyond.
Here's a question too. Like, does he still do jiu-jitsu?
No.
Oh, okay. This is so crazy. Like I hear people can like compare chess and jiu-jitsu a lot. Like just like the moves and the strategy and like planning ahead and anticipating. Like I was just kind of curious if that.
I think it applies anywhere. Like he's super into football right now, and he knows. I feel like he knows the playbook better than anybody on his team, to where the point he never leaves the field. Like he plays defense. He's the kicker. He's the backup quarterback. Like,
right. Yeah.
And I really attribute a lot of that to chess.
Yeah, that's cool.
And just that. So I think that kind of strategical thinking, because if you think about it, football is really just kind of a chess game on the field. It's a bit more physical, but it's all about placement and strategy and being in the right spot at the right time to cause a fumble or intercept a ball or
super cool.
Catch a football. I don't know. Maybe I'm going way too deep with it, but
well, I mean, I agree with you with like the kid stuff though, because what you were saying is like giving your kid the opportunity to kind of figure out who he is. That's kind of what we were talking about. So like, I have a 15 and a half year old daughter and a almost 13-year-old daughter. And so like, you, as a parent, we're like guiding and telling them, like do this, do that in a lot of ways when they're young, and like giving up, for me, I feel like we're probably pretty similar in this regard, like trying to get your kid into everything to see what they're into so that we can guide them or support them in trying to define who they are or like explore something interesting to them. And that transition, dude, when my 15-year-old, like basically where I'm at with it now, it was so much tension between my wife and I about this because there was, we're getting to a point as parents where like telling her what to do just doesn't work when you're a teenager.
No, at some point you got to cut all that.
You just got to like stop.
Correct them when they've done something wrong.
Yeah. It's like, so you have to like get really good at explaining and defining boundaries with your teenager, or with anybody really. If they're an intimate relationship with you or any kind of relationship, like, hey, here's my boundaries. Like, so we had to tell her like, here's the boundaries. You can operate as you wish within these boundaries. Just let us know what you're doing. And then she was just like, oh, because all she wants is freedom. When you're 15, 16 years old, you just want freedom, man. You're tired of being told what to do. And then, for me, when I was her age, I grew up in a very Catholic household. And so there was like rules and like this is what you're doing, like a lot of telling what to do. And I became super resistant to that, to the point where someone telling me what to do is like a trigger almost. I'm just like, oh, you're telling me I can't do this? Watch me.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess my dynamic is all fucked up, man. I had a crazy childhood to the point where at like 8, 9, 10 years old, I was expected to be a man. I was the man of the household, single mom.
That's a trip.
And there was some douchebags that came in and out of her life and our life,
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a weird dynamic because I've always been the oldest, in my immediate family.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was always kind of that, like, I guess, male role model at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like I had to tone that down a little bit as a parent, right? Because it was very much like, hey, do this, do that, do that. This is where you're going, like from a very young age. So that's been ingrained me 30 plus years. It's pretty wild.
Man, what's it like? Can I ask? I'm going to ask you anyways.
Yeah.
We already talked
about.
You
Ask me anything.
I forgot you already told me that. What was it like? So you said 6 is when you're kind of on your own as far as you and your mom are going?
Yeah, I mean, my father and I don't have a relationship because he's never been around for any part of my life.
Sure.
So it was just kind of me and my mom.
Uh-huh.
She married the exact opposite of what my father was, which was kind of let's just say not a good individual, right? Like not a good human.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah.
And I have no quarries with that. Like I can publicly say that. And
yeah, right.
I'm sure that there was a good side to him, but he never showed my mother or me that side at all, right? No relationship there. So my mother married the exact opposite, super hyper religious person, right?
Got it.
And I guess it was good. I was still pretty young at that point, like 5, 6 years old, somewhere in there. And I guess it was good from what I understand for a while. And then something happened mentally to where I'll just dive right into it, man. Like he was super abusive to me, never sexually, but like would literally full on punch you like a man.
Damn.
And he was kind of a smaller guy of stature. And then it was really weird in public. He was the nicest guy in the world to everybody.
Yeah.
But behind closed doors, like I vividly remember him at one point beating my mother and reading the Bible to her, why he was just a sick individual. And me interjecting as a kid I don't even know how old I was, maybe 7 years old. And like trying to pull him off and then getting my ass kicked, just trying to help I knew I was going to get my ass kicked.
Damn.
So it was a messed up thing. And luckily my mother broke that relationship off, but I have 2 siblings from that marriage. And I love them to death. And then he was just completely out of the picture because of obviously what he did. You can't have somebody like that around, right?
Yeah.
My mother's a super strong person,
Is she, damn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit, dude. The sense of abandonment in those issues too, like it's pretty interesting.
Right.
Like a lot of us feel that like, that weird abandonment feel, so you've like felt it twice.
Yeah. I felt it more than that too.
At least now.
It's crazy. Yeah. So it happened a third time too. I actually have another sibling, so there was 4 of us.
How old are you in this next one?
The next one, I was a teenager, thank God, because I actually saved my mother's life.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's even a worse story, and I think I've told it on here, but I woke up to it. So my poor mom, she's going to fucking hate me for this, but
love you, Mom.
So 3rd marriage, right? This is quite a few years later.
Yeah.
Married a drummer of a rock band, nice guy, sober. Fell off the wagon, came home one night, and was literally holding her at knife point. Like, this guy could not handle, I don't know if it was alcohol. I don't know what the hell he was on.
Sure.
But I had to interject there, too. It's like waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning again. It's like, what the fuck is going on?
Mom, yeah.
And luckily, I was old enough and strong enough at that point that I got the better part of him, of a grown man.
Did you, that was, have you talked to her about this? Your mom?
Yes, a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. What's her take on all that? Like those times,
there was a ton of guilt from her part, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry I put you guys in this situation. And if you ever met her, she's like the most loving person in the world, right?
Right.
So that guilt was really heavy. And I was like, it took me, I went down a bad path too as a teenager and stuff, because I had to be the protector. And like, I would go to work before I went to high school at 5 o'clock in the morning at a ranch here and feed bison, which was super awesome, man. Like, I had so many epic experiences with these animals and like being out there. But then I would get out of school, and if it wasn't football season, I would go straight to work, to the point that my teachers kind of knew what was going on. And they were like, hey, there's this, because we live in a ranch community, there's this elective program that, like, if you guys need extra money or whatever, that you can leave school early and we will give you electives to go work and make money. Like, so I had a part-time job. Like, I would go to school till noon, and at lunch I would leave and I would go drill holes in rock, which was fucking one of the best jobs I ever had, dude.
The simplicity of doing things to rock.
Yeah, we were doing, my grandfather worked for a road construction company.
Okay.
And
are they in the area too?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So it was just right here. You know,
dope.
we built a ton of the subdivision roads into these subdivisions here. And it's in the Rocky Mountains, so you can't just like cut a road in, right? So he would set me up with a air compressed drill. Yeah. It's like a jackhammer. Yeah. And you had different size steels, and he would mark them with like spray paint or something. Yeah. And it would be like 60 holes. So I'd get out of high school. Yeah. Drill these 60 holes in rocks. It was a total mindless job, but you had to pay attention. Like,
sure.
God, I was in fucking great shape.
Well, how old were you there?
Just physical ass work.
High school, you said, right?
Yeah, probably 15.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. I actually got my license early because of that too.
Yeah,
like they gave me like a company truck, and as long as I was in the company truck and going to work or driving on the ranch, I could have the ranching. I think it was at 14 or something you could get that license, but I think I got it at 15. So I had that sort of freedom. I was also earning and being able to help provide, right? Which made me feel good. But the best part of that job is all the shit that we drilled that day, we got to blow up at the end of the day with dynamite.
Hell yeah.
And I mean, to the point, my grandfather got on me a couple times because he would have me help load. So we would be punching holes in dynamite and then, putting the primer in. Dropping it in the hole, and then he knew like the blast sequence. He was an ex-firefighter.
Oh, no shit.
And he did this part-time, and then later on after his retirement.
Yeah. Is he still around?
Yeah.
Yeah, dope. You guys are close?
Dude. Yeah, so he became a grandfather when he was 40.
Oh, really?
So he's been around the better part of it. He's been the best influence in my life as a father figure. So even though I was lacking that, these guys were.
You had somebody.
My uncles, like his sons. My mom's brother. Like they're just fucking the best people in the world, man.
Yeah,
like,
I can relate to that a little bit. Like my parents are still together or whatever. My dad's always been in the picture, but when I was growing up, we were broke ass poor, and so my dad was working like 2 jobs all the time. So like and when you're a new parent, my mom had me. I think she had just barely turned. I think she was maybe 19 or 20. I can't remember. But
I think my mom was 18.
Yeah, they're just like young.
My grandparents had my mom when they were like 17 or something.
Right? That the old, geez,
crazy.
The old timers, man, they got down, dude. They didn't give a shit.
There's nothing else to do. But they're still married, still together. Yeah. That's the crazy part.
Yeah, for sure. My mom's side,
loyalty is different. Man.
Oh, totally. And but there's also an issue with that too, I think. But either way, so there's so growing up, my dad's 2 years older than my mom. Like he's just trying to, he ain't got no career, so he's hitting all these jobs just to put food on the table. So me growing up, like I didn't really ever see my dad ever because he was always working. Yeah, he was like, digging ditches for a utility district and then bartending at night just to like put food on the table. Hustling hard, and man, I resented that dude for a long time. Like, cause I never built like a childhood relationship with him. I just remember him coming home every once in a while. We're already eating dinner. He'd show up, for a long time. But my grandfather, dude, he was there, dude. So my grandfather was the best man at my wedding. That's how close we are.
Mine too, dude.
Hell yeah. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, and so
that's wild. I don't know anybody else that's done that.
Yeah.
Actually, one of my buddies did it with his dad. I think was his best man. But yeah, fucking so awesome. Man.
He's the only 2 dudes I've ever met or heard do that.
That's awesome.
In the same room. That's wild.
I told my grandfather, I was like, "You're planning the bachelor party," and he's like, "What?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, dude, you better get some strippers and like
Mine
let's
did
go."
The same fucking thing, dude. It's so funny.
He's just a very like. I know he was wild as a younger, like talking to some of his firefighter buddies and stuff that I've met throughout the years. Like, there's a whole side of him that I don't know, and I wish I had.
Oh yeah.
I wish I had some recordings like this. You know? So that's kind of in the back of my mind too.
Yeah. How old is he now?
He's 85.
Yeah. It's the same age as
he was
mine.
born in 1940.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure mine's.
And I was born in 80.
Okay.
So like we're that 40-year gap. So he's 84.
Yeah. Okay.
Or I can't.
Mine's real close to that.
Know that man. This guy means so much to me, man. Like,
yeah, my grandfather. He, like I said, best man at my wedding. That kind of describes it. But he, talking about job stuff, dude. I'm in high school, right? My parents are broke or whatever, and my grandfather's like, "Hey, let's start a business together." I'm like a freshman in high school. I'm like, "Okay, let's do it." So he had like a handyman job, like business, called Ben and Ted's Grand Works, and we'd go around. Like, we lived in a small ass town. We'd go around and like fix siding, repair decks, like plumbing, electrical, build retaining walls, build a shit ton of horse fence. Like, it was just the dopest experience growing up, because I learned, like, I look back at that now, I'm like, wow, I learned work ethic. I learned how to like prioritize my time. I learned how to like save and like use my money appropriately. Like, it was just, and then bonding with somebody, you know, just like endless shit talking all the time to each other. It was the most awesome experience ever. So
I couldn't agree more. I mean, that's why I have the work ethic that I do today.
Yeah.
And like, even to the point, like, you work your ass off. His philosophy, my grandfather's philosophy, was you work your ass off, drill these 60 holes, and then, let's take a 30-minute break and sit down and chill for a minute, you know, or whatever it was, right? Like, he was just a stand-up guy, like the perfect role model for somebody like me. And I wish I would have followed a little bit more of it, because, God, I wouldn't trade anything in my life, my learning experiences at all, the way I grew up, even that horrible story that I told about my mother.
Sure.
Like, that imprinted something in my mind to be a protector, right?
Yes.
And to be a good individual. Like, that made me, and I guess it can go both ways, right? Because most people that are abused end up becoming abusers, I guess.
They can
at some
be,
point.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Sure.
I've never.
I don't know either, but what I'm seeing in your situation is you have a loving relationship with your mom as the person who's trying to protect her, which in itself, like, seems like it inspired you to like grow up very quickly, which can suck sometimes, but also gave you this strength. I think it was hard on
her too, because I would tell her, "No, you're not gonna like." I was the man of the house. You know, it was weird.
How did that go? Did she respect that stuff sometimes, or is she like, Bobby?
Yeah, there was times where I was out of line. You know,
okay,
100%.
Yeah.
It was a learning curve, right? Sure. But I was always in looking out for, you know,
fear.
I felt like,
there's a lot of fear.
I gotta protect this, right?
Absolutely, like, If I lose my mom, then what?
Yeah,
for sure. How's your relationship with her now?
It's great.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's great.
That's awesome.
Siblings, great. I mean, even though they're my half brothers and sisters, best people in the world, because we've been through all that together. Like, I don't think we'd be as close of a family if we hadn't gone through, like, I'm big on this, like, going through adversity makes you a stronger person, whether it's climbing in an ice bath. Fuck, I did that this morning. I'm giving myself the chills. Thanks to fucking Jeremy over there.
Fucking Jeremy.
He had to one-up me last week. And then you're texting me, like, in the middle of my ice bath. You're like, yo, there's a clip outside. And I'm like, that's the last thing I'm worried about right now.
I was trying to give you something to look forward to when you got out.
But yeah, to bring it back full circle, like, all those experiences have really molded me into a person, good and bad, right? Like, I became such a protector that this hindered me later in life in a court case when I was over 18 because of protecting a girlfriend that was in a bad situation that she put herself in. She was in the wrong. These guys that tried to rape her were really in the wrong. But yeah, I felt like I had to take care of it, right? It was like that vigilante justice does not work according to the law, right? And I had to learn that the hard way.
Yeah.
So I think that, it took me being summoned to anger management classes, which I was sitting in a room with 10 individuals that I despised, right? Like people that at this point in my life, I would have no problem beating to a pulp or killing. Like literally. Like
yeah, scum of the
I'm being
earth.
100%.
I
like
hear
these
you.
guys all beat their wives and they all had reasoning
Yeah.
behind it. And they were all sitting in this class.
Right.
And you would go around the circle and tell your story.
Right. And you're just
And then they
hating
would
them
get to
more.
me and I was just like
Seething.
like
Why am I
walked
here?
out of the first two classes and
yeah.
luckily the guy that was running it saw like what I had been through, and he's like, we need to get through what your issues are and why you're in here. And I was like, there's no reason for me to be in here. I'm the exact opposite of all these people. And it actually, because it was court ordered, I never would have stayed in that, right?
Right.
I never would have sat through that.
Are you glad that you did?
100%.
Yeah.
Because I had no idea that I was a protector until he like brought it to light. He's like, well, this is how your past has influenced you. And it made me realize too, that it's like, I have a bad problem with where like, I genuinely want to help anybody and everybody. I want to make them a better person. I want to help the homeless guy in the corner. I want to help somebody that's, on the side of the road that needs to change a tire. Like, I want to help a woman that's in an abusive relationship, even if don't have anything. Like, I think it was just.
Yeah. What's the reason why for that?
I think growing up and having that as a constant, something that was always in the back of my mind, like I have to solve this problem. With my own immediate family, it's just a natural like motor skill. Like it's kind of a muscle memory type thing to where I even still get it. But there's times where you shouldn't interject in somebody else's business, right? Like,
for sure.
Yeah.
Because if they don't want to be helped, it ain't going to happen.
Yeah, that's a hard thing.
That's like one of the hardest things that I've ever had to learn, man. It's still a struggle sometimes, dude.
Right.
Quite honest with you, like, especially as you evolve as a person and you have people around you that you love, you want them to evolve with you. But if they're not ready to do that, you have to just be patient.
Yeah.
And you have to like really embrace who you are as a person and allow yourself to maintain this like being that allows them to just kind of like be in the present. This is like servitude. This is my definition of servitude. My definition of servitude is creating an environment based on who you are as a person that allows people to enter experience, that gives them the ability to find their authenticity or find their healing. Not me healing you. I don't want to heal you. Mm-hmm. That's not my job. My job is just to create an environment that allows you to discover that for yourself. But as you grow and transition and become whatever it is that you're trying to become, it's sometimes people have a hard time seeing that. And it's really hard for them to follow that path. And it's at times I've also, for sure, with all the coaching that I've done and all this stuff, like, someone hires you to do something and you're like, oh, I'm going to give you this 8-week physical fitness nutrition plan so that you can fit in your bathing suit or whatever when you go on vacation. And then they do that, they get their gains, or they do what they meet their goals, they go on their vacation. Hey, call me when you're back. Let's start where we picked up, blah, blah, blah. And then they call you, or they don't call you, and you see their Instagram photos a year later and they're right back to where they were. And you're just like, fuck, man. Like I'm not in it for that.
I see how it's easy to slip into that too,
Yeah.
But it's like, if you're trying to help somebody, that's the last thing you want to see is them fail, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah,
God, I guess I really didn't help them.
And to me, like, and I'm not saying For me, it's I try and really define like the conceptual meaning behind a term, a word, or whatever it is. For me, helping has always been the word help. For me, I'm not saying this is for you, but for me, has always had this like behind the scenes self gratification. Like I'm here to help you, but I'm kind of here to help. I'm kind of here to feel better about myself. Like if as soon as you get help, because we say that a lot of times, like, oh yeah, helping others actually makes you feel better. Well, okay, if we're saying that, and I know that's not what you're saying here, but if we're saying that, then are we actually trying to help somebody, or are we just trying to make ourselves feel better? So for me, it's like I try to stay away from helping, and I try and embody serving. Sure. So I'm just here to like serve you in a way. Like there's a idea. It's called.
Is that so? Mm-hmm. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's okay.
Is that so? Because what I'm gathering from it, or my perception of that, and I just want to make sure I'm on the same page as you.
Sure.
Is my perception is like, hey, here's what I'm available to offer. Mm-hmm. You take from it what you will. Here's the toolkit, or here's some things to sharpen your tools, some other tools, something like that.
Yeah, it's
take
like
what you want, but it's not like you expect something in return. Is that kind of?
I expect nothing in return, even though it is important to understand like the energy exchange between individuals. Otherwise, you can be involved in a relationship with somebody where they take. Right, so it's really important to maintain.
100%.
Yeah, so it's really important to maintain.
That's one of my biggest downfalls.
And if you are in a helping paradigm, you're willing to give, and it's really hard to walk that line or to recognize that line between taking and giving, because as a giver, you're not going to recognize it maybe soon enough where they're taking, and maybe they don't have like the mental or awareness. Of the fact that they're even taking, but they're just trying to relieve stress, or they're just trying to relieve pain, or whatever it is, of feeling as much as possible. And they're thinking about themselves a lot. And since you're a giver, a helper, you're giving. And then you find yourself in a position.
You're 100% right, man. It's taken me a long time to realize that, and going through some horrible relationships and stuff like that.
Yeah.
To where it's like, I'll give you want this shirt?
Yeah.
Here it is.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm that sort of person. Like if you like something, like I was definitely a people pleaser. And I was also, to bring it back even a little bit more beyond that, I think why I had such success in my career is rock and roll touring background. Every day you have to solve problems, right? And it's very strategic. Like there's high profile people involved. Every venue that you go into is different, whether it's meeting fire codes, where the dressing rooms are located from the stage, all that sort of stuff. So you're constantly dealing with people and different people on a daily basis, managers of a building or local stagehands or whatever, and you're problem solving, and it feels good to problem solve.
Absolutely.
And you do it like instantaneously. You have to do it on the fly, or the show doesn't happen, right?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
So I think like problem solving, and as fast as you fucking can as a roadie, that's just beat into it. So a lot of guys go home from the road and they start doing that at home. I'm gonna problem solve the stove and why these mixing bowls are out of order. It's like, it's OCD, man. Like I have it, right? It's like
there's a lot
it's like my wife used to get on me because like we had toddlers at one point, and there was just fucking toys everywhere and dog toys and shit, and I would have like be holding the kid. And I'd just be kicking shit out of the way with my feet. And she's like, why are you kicking stuff? And I was like, I'm so used to walking across the arena floor. And it's like, if there's shackles or something that somebody's going to trip on, you don't even take the time to bend over and like pick them up. You just politely move them out of your way with your feet. So it's just like those little things like that. She's like, you're taking my anxiety to like a fucking 11 right now.
I mean, super similar, very comparable to the fire world, right? So like, the wildland firefighting, that's what I do for a profession. Like our tours are like 2 weeks, and then we come back for 3 days off, and then we rinse and repeat. Back in the day, it was only 2 days off. So, and we would do 21 days often. Now that doesn't really happen so much anymore, but regardless, when I was a younger man, the transition between that and home life was just, or home aspect of my life is just so drastic. You know, you miss them, you haven't seen them for a long time, you're gone for 2 weeks, you're physically exhausted, emotionally exhausted sometimes, but your job as a wildland firefighter is to solve fucking problems. That is the job.
Same thing.
Mitigate risk, solve problems. That's it. So like as a hotshot, like that's like we do that to the nth degree. Like that's what we're there to do. So I'd come home and it's like same thing. Like shit's not picked up. Like kitchen's not clean. There's an issue between my wife at the time and then the kid. Like they're arguing about like homework or like and I'm just seeing like solution. Just if we do this, do that, we do this, we do that. Like boom, 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 boom. We're
Everything
done.
will be dialed.
Everything's
in half an hour.
super dialed. Yeah, exactly.
And so, meanwhile, you don't realize that you're coming in and just fucking up their flow.
100%. Oh my God, it would cause so much stress.
You haven't been around for 3 weeks,
and then you're wondering like, why are we always fighting when I come home? Like all I want to do is see you and spend time with you, but we spend 2 to 3 days fighting the whole time. And it took me the realization eventually. I just had to be like, ugh, they got their own shit going on. So now when I come home, it's, you know, I just come home and say like, hey, like, what can I do to help you? It's that simple.
Yeah.
What can I do to help you? It's like, okay, well, I need you to take the kids here. I need you to do that because there's also expectation from potentially them, right? Because you come home and they're thinking like, I got the help finally, but all you're doing is fucking shaking the bee's nest,
right?
Or getting a breather or whatever, right? So, you know, because desperately all I want to do is relax and not do shit, or maybe go on a hike or something like
this. Do something fun, right?
Do something like, hey, like everybody drop everything you're doing, family.
Yeah.
And let's go do something fun. And they're like, well, we can't because we have this going on in this kid's sport and school or whatever. And so
that was an issue too, because my wife, you know, at one point, and I hope she's okay with me sharing this, but I'm going to share it. You know, she's like, you're making me out to be the bad parent because I'm the one that has to enforce all the rules and everything. And then you come home and you're like, we're going to fucking Chuck E. Cheese or whatever it was.
Because all you want to do is spend time with them.
Let's go hike. Yeah. You just miss them so much when you're gone. Yeah. Like, you feel like you're trying to, it's almost like you're trying to make up for lost time.
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. And so that is exactly my point. So we finally had gotten to a point in our relationship where it was just like, I'd come home and I'd just be like, okay, I know you have a routine, you have plans, you have things going on. Like, what can I do to help you? First off, because me picking we may not be able to go to Chuck E. Cheese, but picking them up from school is a big help. And that feels good too, you know?
Yeah.
And then same with her, she'd say like, well, what do you want to do? Because she would also come back at me and like, well, why don't you just rest? I'm like, well, I want to rest, but I want to be integrated back into the family more than resting. And so we would just have a conversation about that. And then maybe it's like, hey, we got a little bit of time. Like, do you want to go get some dinner? I'm like, sweet, let's go get some dinner. And it's just, if it's not like Chuck E. Cheese stuff, but it's better than
that was a bad
fighting.
example because I hate fucking cheese.
But it's a good point. I mean, I see what you're saying. Like, it could be anything. It could be like go mountain biking with your kids or whatever it is, right? So let's
go camping.
Let's go camping. So, so for me, it became more about not disrupting as much shit as possible and just reintegrating into whatever they had going on because, dude, she is a single mom for 6 to 8 months out of the year, fully. Right. Like, that's fucked up. Mm-hmm. And so, like, for me to come in there and pretend like, you know, like anything is different. Like, I got to actually just be there and integrate with the family and just whatever they need, you know? Because the kids also, like, dude, they're working and hustling, playing sports. And I'm just like, hey, let's go fucking do this now.
Right.
And they're just like, well, I kind of have this as my only day off to relax. And I just kind of want to veg out on TV. I'm like, well, you may have deserved that. So, like, why do we have to plan your life around me?
I feel you 100%, man. Like, yeah. I mean, 12 years ago is when I actually quit touring because I was gone, you know, 285 to
that's
fucking
crazy.
300
that's
plus
crazy.
days a year.
That's
you know?
crazy.
You get on a world tour with Diva or something like that, they literally don't stop. And
that's crazy.
It's not like you leave a bag packed because you never know. Like, even on your day off, especially if you're a stage manager, it's like, oh, well, we just got Jimmy Kimmel, so you got to fly to L.A. and you got to get there before the band does
to set shit up and just the logistics.
You know, it's like, yeah,
that's crazy. So, that's an interesting place to be too, because one of the things that I struggle with even now is just like the sense of loneliness, because you're like, you have somebody in your life that you have, like a wife or a significant other or partner, whoever, however you want to say it, but you're gone so much that you don't really have them. So you get this like feeling that, at least I have gotten this before, you start to have this feeling that you're doing this life by yourself, and that's a pretty tricky place to navigate.
It definitely is, and I think that's why. I mean, in that industry, like, marriages just, they don't last.
Yeah,
they really don't. I mean, that was another reason I quit. It was like, fuck, I could be that miserable. I've seen so many miserable old guys on the back of the tour bus, like signing divorce papers, or just really pissed off that their kids are off doing whatever, and they can't do that. They're in, we're in Abu Dhabi or somewhere in a hotel lobby or the back of a tour bus going down the road at 3 a.m. Like,
fucking crazy, dude.
Drinking instead of sleeping.
What a wild
like,
lifestyle.
It's so. I think people have this misconception with that lifestyle too, that everything's just like Coke and tits and Jack Daniel's bottles and Marlboro Reds and like just this total debauchery, and that's not the case at all. Like, but yeah, I think, even transitioning out of touring, I still was doing like major sporting events, so like Super Bowl halftime or something like that, and those would be 6 weeks. You start kind of right after Christmas. There's the whole fabrication time, then the rehearsal time. You're there well before you even know what teams are going to the Super Bowl. So like that's kind of how I was able to pay the bills over the years, and now I've slowly been able to transition out of that more and more and more and more, so I can be around more, because I think the value of being around as a parent is crucial, especially in those early years, right? Is like actually being there is way different than talking. It's just like you sitting across from me, as opposed to us being on, we weren't on whatever it is, Riverside, to record that episode. Like, Riverside's great. There's no internet lag. There is, like, but it's just different. It's different when you're there. It's especially when you have young kids, like, man. I still got a 5-year-old at home. So
I relate to this desperately or deeply, because, like, where I'm at in my career with the fire service, like, I've been doing fire for 23 years. Yeah. It's a long time, dude. I started 2 days after graduating high school, and I have not stopped. So like,
really?
Yeah, and so I've missed every summer for 23 years, 6 months basically, like every year for 23 years. And it's challenging. And for me, like what you're talking about, I am at a place for sure right now. I'm in a place where my value is time with the people I love. Like, one of my values, like, I want to spend more time with these people, like, really, really, really bad, because I'm doing a high risk job for sure. And even though I pride myself at mitigating risk at the highest degree, I mean, that's what my position is about. Like, there's still just that lingering feeling all the time of like having to, like,
you're going into a wildfire.
And it's not like I'm sitting there afraid and like, oh my God, this is going to happen. I don't put my mind in that area. Like, I still operate at the highest level for sure. But at the end of the day, it's like, it's just the value of like, spending that much time away. And realizing that, man, they're going to be in college soon. It's going to be a lot harder to see them, And like, I even talked to an old superintendent not recently, but a few years ago. He ran another hotshot crew close to where we're at, and he had retired, and his son was working underneath me when I was on a different hotshot crew, when I was a squad leader, and I had asked him at his wedding, actually, his son's wedding. I said, Rick, like, how's retirement going? Like, how did all that stuff go? Like, how you feeling? And what's something that you weren't expecting or whatever? I can't remember the details. I'm paraphrasing, but I do remember what he said. He said, it's really hard because when I retired, I thought that I was going to have all of a sudden all this time with my son and my daughter. And I realized that they were adults.
They have their own
life. And he's like, it sent him into a depression. And I was like, even though he probably wouldn't say that because he's a super manly man, right. But that's what happened. And to me, I'm just like, holy shit. Like, first off, like, what a great story for me to understand, like, the time that I do have with him is so valuable, and I have to see that, because if I don't see that, man, I'm missing out. And it's not about me. It's just about being in their presence, about just being together as much as possible.
Yeah, I think about, bringing it back to your grandfather and my grandfather full circle, like, I think the reason why I got that job opportunity with him was, it wasn't because I was the most qualified. That's for damn sure. Or because I did the best job. Believe me, I screwed up a bunch. Yeah. Or was the most reliable, or that I showed up at work at noon. Like, it's just.
It's because he loved you.
There was an underlying thing there. It was like, hey, I need to lead by example. Like, he very rarely mandated anything from me. It was kind of like you were saying, like, here's the parameters. You need to operate within those.
For sure.
And that sort of value. So I think, like, leading by example, you probably know more about leadership than a lot of people in their careers, especially when you dive in. What I found is, like, the guys that have post-military career, or even military, and then fire and just government agencies, that sort of thing. Like, you guys, from a leadership standpoint, that's one of the biggest assets you guys take away from some of the low-paying jobs that you have. It's like,
it's for me, leadership's such a interesting, it's amazing, like, just concept and also just topic in general. But I have a consulting company strictly dedicated to leadership stuff, but it's very specific leadership. It's self-leadership, because I think there's specifically in many worlds, anywhere leadership can be applied, which is everywhere. A lot of us are trying to get people to, like, follow us to some regard, like, I need to get this person to do this action so that we can make money, or so that we can achieve this objective. And so there's all these different dynamics. Jocko's obviously, like, the real deal when it comes to that shit. So, like,
he's the leader master, dude.
He's the leader master.
And he'll tell you, in a pro wrestler voice,
Exactly. So his philosophy on leadership is, I think, something that's very amazing, right? For me, not to, and like you said, like, all these military guys, fire dudes, public servants, like, anybody who has, like, a leadership background when it comes to doing, like, all risk type of stuff is they're all kind of saying a lot of the same stuff sometimes. But what I realized, man, if you really want to be a good leader and get people to influence positive outcomes, you have to be leading yourself first. You have to be a good self-leader. You have to start trying to understand yourself. You have to try and, like, have good habits. You have to have discipline. Like, Jocko talks about that shit all the time. Mm-hmm. Like, you have to be consistent too. You have to be able to understand your emotions. You have to know you need to know that the only thing that is permanent is impermanence, right? And how you navigate that change is the amount of love that you carry through it.
What was that quote you used from the last one? No man stands in the same river twice.
It's the same. It's the same thing. It's like, I can't remember the philosopher's name. It's like Heraclitus or something like this. He Greek philosopher. I think, like, maybe like, this is me, just someone will know, but, like, deemed as, like, one of the first Stoics or something like this. And he just talks about no man steps in the same river twice, right? Because the water's always flowing. It's always moving. So it's the same
really,
concept.
If you think about it, everything changes around you.
Everything, absolutely everything changes. And if you want to go really deep, you can influence change if you're consciously aware of it. Like, we're influencing change all the time, but most of us are influencing change from an unconscious perspective.
Look at politics today. I don't even want to go down this path right now because we're having this great conversation. But to bring it back to... being
Heraclitus.
A good parent.
Heraclitus? Yeah, word.
Have you read the book, The Daily Stoic? It's like 300 and...
I think so. Isn't that the Ryan something? What's the author's name?
I don't know.
Ryan?
Look up The Daily Stoic on Audible.
Is that
I
Ryan Holland? Is
books,
that right?
But I listen to books.
Ryan Holland?
I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great book too.
Yeah.
That'll blow your mind. You're supposed to listen to, like, one a day for a year, I think, is the concept.
Yeah.
but my dumbass will listen to like 20 or 30 of them at once, so I don't remember
Ryan
anything.
Holiday.
A Holiday, yeah.
Ryan Holiday.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, great book. So to bring it back to parenting, I guess.
Sure.
In that, I think part of being a good leader is leading by example, right?
For sure.
Like what you just said.
You need to
right
embody
there,
it.
like,
Yes, absolutely.
I think that's really what's made me recently in the last couple of years, like I was such a giver that I wasn't physically taking care of myself. I wasn't taking the time, and it's hard as a new parent, especially if you have infants and stuff, right? It's like you're not eating the best diet because you don't want to cook 2 dinners, right? Like you don't want to
Or eating all the leftovers on their plates and shit.
yeah,
Absolutely.
which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
And then you're not taking the time to go to the gym because you want to spend time with them, right?
Yeah.
And at some point,
Yeah.
you can't just throw your toddler down on a towel at the gym and be thrown around,
No.
225 power cleaning, right? Like it's not really the safest thing, right?
Probably not.
It's hard to take them on hikes. You're not going to go hike 7 miles,
Yeah.
at
man.
13,000 feet or
Yeah.
12,000 feet
Yeah.
with a baby on your back, dude.
Yeah.
That's just
Yeah.
shit like that is not going to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Once they get a little bit older and they start
Sure.
walking, right? And
Yeah.
I think part of my parenting too, I was so fortunate. I have a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 5-year-old. 5-year-old was a mistake, straight up. Biggest blessing in my life though, because
Unplanned, you mean?
unplanned, yes, not a mistake. Good catch. I'm gonna have to edit that out. I don't edit anything out of podcasts, but
That's a good one to edit out.
okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes, unplanned. I love you. So the first 2 were so close together. At one point, they were both in diapers, like that sort of thing. So it was just, and me being a rock and roll roadie, like coming off of that, quitting touring to be a father,
Yeah.
and feeling like, we lived in Hermosa Beach, California, or Redondo Beach at the time. We were on Avenue A in Catalina, which is a block off the water.
Damn.
Beach cruiser life, like
Yeah.
park the truck on the
Yeah.
weekend. We rode the beach cruisers to Trader Joe's, to the bar, to meet friends for dinner. Like fucking great, right?
Yeah.
Great life as a young couple.
Sure.
Just,
Yeah.
having a good time.
Yeah.
You add 2 kids to that. Yeah, they make an attachment for your beach cruiser where you can put a kid on it, and it's fucking awesome. The kids love it, dude. Like honestly, that's how I got my kids through their adolescence, was beach cruising.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're just, as a parent, you're just constantly like, you want to move the needle faster. You want to problem solve. So my philosophy was like, let's get them to walk as fast as they can. Let's get them to talk. Let's get them potty trained. Let's just, let's speed this up, right? Like, let's get them reading. Before they even get to school, like, it's just like, you just want to speed the process.
Stage
up, right?
managing your
Yeah,
kids.
100%, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's that aspect of it, and then also taking care of yourself, right? Because you're so hyper focused on this and you're new at it. Now you're kind of sacrificing your own health, right? You're not
Yeah.
going to the gym as much. You're
Yeah,
not
yeah,
surfing every morning. You're
Yeah,
not, like
Yeah. And it's
you're
really
sleep
important.
deprived. There's
It's super important to maintain that though, because you see this with, or I've seen this with women a lot. Everything you're describing, right? They have their children, and that happens, right? You just talked about the old life, or the life you had before kids, which is like, oh, this is so rad. It's a great life, right? Still, yeah, for sure. But then women have kids oftentimes, and when they do everything you just said, but their life just immediately becomes their children. Every aspect of them becomes their children, and then the children go to college.
Yeah.
And then what happens?
Severe depression. Their identity's lost, all this stuff. So it's like you're saying, like it's, yeah, they're young and they take a lot of our energy and stuff like this, but it's real. And not everybody has the freedom to like go to the gym. And I get that too. Like you can't like just leave your baby on the beach while you go surf. I get it. Right.
But it is also still very important to like try and maintain a sense of self. And also, even more importantly, make sure that as individuals that we're still building in like goals and dreams from an individual perspective that allows us to achieve that may not have anything to do with our kids. It may just be something that you want to pursue, because that's going to allow you to still maintain some sort of sense of purpose as you're navigating your life. Because a lot of the parent issue, once the kids leave the nest, man, like, and they're flying on their own, that feeling of them not needing you anymore is pretty gnarly.
And believe me, they check the fuck out, dude. Like I did. I love my mom to death, but there was a period where it's like,
sure, dude,
I'm not gonna call you every night. You know, like I want to call and make sure that you're okay. But it's like, you know, it's, I don't know, man. It's a rough one. So I guess like going back to that, like kind of leading by example, and to bring it back even further. So the first two, I just wanted them to grow up as fast as they could, and then I realized how fast they grew up. I was like, oh shit. So with my third one, I was able to like pump the brakes and just like, hey, I'm just gonna enjoy you for what you are. And as a parent, that has been so much more gratifying. And she has got twice the character of my other two, and my other two will attest to this. Like she might be a problem.
But what a beautiful thing to, I mean, there's a lot of wisdom in that.
Ton.
Like, you know, like taking a little bit of a different approach in a way, not like you're not stepping,
just enjoying it, right?
Yeah, you're not stepping back, you're still involved. You're just taking a different approach to their life and allowing them to turn into whatever they want to turn into with a little bit of guidance.
Yeah.
And that's like less stressful for you, and also pretty enjoyable to watch them become something that you're just like, whoa, this is like a cool experiment, you know? Like
it really is, man. It's like a science experiment almost or something.
Yeah, it's rad.
But yeah, I guess in that first part of that too is I wasn't taking care of myself to the point where I was in the worst shape of my life, you know? It's like I quickly realized and was fortunate enough to realize like, okay, I need to grab control of this thing now. And for me to be the best example for my kids now that they're older, like I want to be able to beat you in push-ups. I know you can beat me in chess, like mine. Okay. I'm not going to build my brain overnight, right? Like, but there's some of that, like you have to lead by example. If I'm asking you to do 40-yard sprints, I better be able to do it, right? And I better be able to do it just as fast, or not faster, right?
Or even something even more like low on the totem pole. Like if I'm going to tell you to put your plates in the dishwasher, I better be putting my plates in the dishwasher. I mean, that's simple as that. Like I think leading by that example is like actually one of the more difficult things to do as a parent, because a lot of times we're just tired and inundated with all this crap. But like the example piece is very, I mean, you hear, I always hear my kids say this to each other all the time when I'm asking Kennedy, my youngest, to be like, hey, you need to do this. Well, Maddie doesn't do it. I'm like, geez Louise, like here we go. Like she's saying that about me for sure then, you know what I mean? So that example piece is super important with kids, I think, for sure.
Yeah, especially once they get a little bit older. They key into all that, right?
Oh, like, totally.
It's super important,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people now, like if you're the parent that's just literally on your phone while your kid's in a waiting room, they're going to want to be on their phone too, right? Like it's kind of that. So I call it shelving the phone. I really try my very best just to throw it up on top of the refrigerator on do not disturb at a certain time, and it's just there, and I'm here for you. You know, like that sort of thing. I think that's important. But more importantly, like for me to be present, genuinely present in the moment is like try to check out of what's going on, whether it's in here with you today, when I'm with them, you know, like just trying to be present where you're at and not let your mind wander to like, oh shit, I got a podcast tomorrow that I haven't prepared for, or I have this that I haven't done, or did I pay the mortgage? Like there's plenty of time for all of that outside of, I think it kind of comes down to values, right? Like you got to really lay it out and figure out what is the most important part of you and you feeling good, and then checking out of those other things, and there will be time. You can solve those problems later, but like what's most important, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I don't have anything to say about that. Yeah. That's exactly right.
So, and this is just my perspective, right? I'm sure that there's a million different ways to parent, you know, whether it's with a nanny or maybe I'm not involved enough, maybe, you know, but that I think like taking care of myself, number one. So A, I have this to do creatively. B, I'm going to take the time to cook 2 dinners. You can have some of my dinner if you'd like, and I'd be glad to make you whatever you want. But like, this is what I need to do to stay in line. And then I need to be physically fit. So hey, I'm going to invite you. You want to go to the gym with me? Do you want to go walk the dog with me? Like, now that they're a little bit older,
Sure.
There's that opportunity.
I think there's like you're saying, like setting the example, these types of things for sure. Oh man, I lost my train of thought for a minute, but it'll come back.
We got plenty of time. We can come back to it.
Yeah, there was something to do with. Anyways, continue.
No, but I just think that like I have personally become a better parent when I realized like, okay, my kids aren't going to see me for an hour and a half because I'm going to go for an hour and a half long hike, or I'm going to go.
I remember what I was going to say
to the archery range, or I'm going to go. And now I try to time that around when they're at school or when they have other activities going on, so I'm not missing out. I'm there for the important stuff.
One of the biggest things in kind of the healing space that I'm with adults at the most fundamental level, like we all carry this. And this translates into my kids. Like this is how it's. Anyways, I'll just talk about it. So, in the healing space, when people come into these environments that we're holding retreats for, or whatever we're doing in a healing way, is almost every individual that I've met. Actually, every individual that I've met carries around a sense of not being good enough, right? And that sense of not being good enough is directly linked to fear. And fear has two sides. Fear on one side has the ability to actually create something really beautiful, right? The fear of not eating created agriculture. The fear of not having shelter created skyscrapers to some extent. But the opposite side of fear is doubt. And doubt is directly linked to this fear of not being loved. So for me as a parent, one of my values is making sure that my kids know that I love them, that they have endless love. But I can't do that unless I love myself. And that's the self-leadership. It's the working out. It's the eating correctly. It's like taking care of this physical body. It's about having a mental practice so that I can understand and see things appropriately. It's about having a spiritual practice to some degree, so I'm connected to this thing this crazy shit that we're seeing, right? That we were living in or whatever.
Did you see the eclipse today, by the way?
Man, sick, right?
It's pretty wild. Let me know about it, but that was
I'm glad I was here when it happened.
Pretty epic
dude.
in the mountains,
yeah,
too.
For sure. So for me, it's about like the self-leadership part is I have to love myself so that I can lead my kids, so that they don't carry around the thing that I've been seeing literally in every single individual that we work with, is this feeling that they're not worthy of love. And if I can approach that within myself, love myself, then I can teach them how to not have that fear. And when you don't have that fear, man, you can do anything. Anything.
Yeah, doubt is
the worst.
The worst.
It's the worst. It is and it's crazy to me that, I mean,
and we do it to ourselves, man. Like,
sure.
I doubt myself all the time to this day, and I have to catch myself and literally like, I guess every career move I've ever made, and this is relating it back to my career, but this is the best analogy. Mm-hmm. But this could go with a relationship or anything, right? Something new. Is there's this like level of fear and doubt that are playing at the same time, right? I guess doubt is
it's an aspect of fear.
It's an aspect of fear.
Because fear can actually help us create something.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you literally have to push through that fear and take that next step across that line, or into that gym, or into that river, or off that cliff, or out of that plane door. Whatever it is, so you don't have the doubt, because it's weird. Doubt is almost infectious. Like, it creates more doubt, right? Because you didn't cross that line this time. I'm not saying everybody should go jump off a cliff, like, right? What's that old cliche saying? If your friends jumped off a cliff, would you? But like, but like taking, doing something that is scary to you or that you have fear of doing, if you don't actually execute that and get over that fear, that doubt stays with you forever. It's in the back of your mind, like,
I'm not good enough.
Should have I taken the opportunity to skydive, but I didn't because I was scared. Like that's always going to be there, right?
Yeah, and like I said, like how doubt is linked to this idea of not being, it is directly linked to the like not being worthy of love, right? Like, and this is instilled into us when we're children, most oftentimes. Like I said, we talked about neuroplasticity, like 0 to 7 is when we're supposed to be, like theoretically is when we become who we are. I take that a step further and take it to 14 because of adolescence, and there's so many big experiences that happen within that. So 0 to 14. But at the end of the day, this feeling of like not being worthy of love, if we can get to a point where we actually, and this is what we do in some of the healing work, is we try to get people to understand, like, dude, love is everywhere. It's literally fucking everything. Like, and you have endless amounts and endless access to it. So if you can actually get to a place where you fully understand that you have endless amounts of love in you to tap into whenever you want, like energy itself is kind of love. It's creation. Creation is love. It comes from that place. If you can get past that, then now you can use the fear, right? Of like, oh, is this going to hurt me? Like, what is this going to feel like? To actually like inspire you to problem solve. And that problem solving is like, that's fun in my opinion. That's where you get to chase your curiosity and be like, okay, like I have a fear. I'm going to keep going. And so like that process is beautiful. But yes, doubt is the killer of most things. And then it's the killer of creation. And our purpose here, this is my philosophy, is our purpose here, because the question comes as this, is like, well, why can a tree exist? Why does the tree not have doubt of being a tree? Why does a dog not have doubt of being a dog? Like, why do humans always have this confliction of like, what am I? Why am I here? Like, why is there always this doubt? Like, you know, why is that there? And the answer that I got when I asked this was, we need to have the fear, because our ability to have fear creates the problem solving. It creates the agriculture from fear of not eating. It creates the skyscrapers. And ultimately what it creates is endless possibilities that creation uses to create upon. And that is our purpose. Our purpose is to innovate, create, experience, so that creation continues. And so for me, it's important to know, like, if I'm starting to feel afraid about something, I have to take a step back and I have to go, okay, where's the doubt in this? Okay, there's the doubt. Okay, no, I know I have love. I know that people love me. I know that I love myself. Okay, now I'm going to use this fear and I'm going to get inspired to create something. And now I'm going to chase my curiosity and solve problems. Mm-hmm. And then something always beautiful comes from it.
Man, it's fucking spot on. Like, I have no argument for that at all. Like, I think that you're spot on with it.
And it doesn't,
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And it doesn't mean too, when we build awareness, right, and understanding of life in general, and we get rid of some of our traumas, we start feeling love on a much deeper level, like with ourself, with the people that we love, just being in nature, like connecting to nature. You just start feeling love on a much deeper level. But because you can feel love on a deeper level with that awareness, you're also going to feel pain on a much deeper level. And you're going to go through fucking really painful shit that you're just like, I cannot believe how I got here. But those are, if you can maintain your understanding of doubt in those moments, again, dude, the pendulum swings back to creation and you create amazing things. And that pain is necessary. You can actually at some point understand how that swings back and forth and take something called neutrality, and or a better way, or other ways to describe this from my perspective would be as the role of the observer, where you can actually pull yourself away from that pendulum swing and watch it swing unaffected, so that when it comes back, you can come back and get to work again. But that pendulum's always going to be swinging. So you're going to feel deep love and you're going to feel deep pain all the time when you start gaining more awareness.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Do you think that, or from your perspective, mm-hmm. like being transparent and sharing, being truthful, I think that that's huge, right? Because that creates guilt.
Sure.
But do you think that they correlate with doubt at all? Because maybe in the back of your mind, there's like some unpacked business, right? Like a few years ago, I couldn't share that story about my mom.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like having
Yeah.
multiple conversations in here,
Mm-hmm.
going through some sort of therapy that I didn't want to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at it from an outside perspective, like you said, like stepping back from that pendulum, like that's what's made me be able to be open and actually genuinely share it. You know, and not a lot of people, not even some of my closest friends, to this day, know what I just told you.
Well, I appreciate
now
you.
they do, but
They do now.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
But I think yes, I would answer it as you were saying that. I was trying to figure out the connection, and I say yes, because guilt, if you can say like, okay, I'm feeling guilty, like, is there fear behind that guilt?
Right.
And if fear is behind that guilt, then fear has two sides, and one of them's doubt. So if you can link anything to fear, right? Like I'll say this very honestly too, like most of my life I've felt guilty for who I am, right? In fact, it's a big thing that I was just transitioning through right now, right? Very recently, is this feeling of guilt that I've had my whole life. And it's not my mother's fault, you know what I mean? But she was, you know, like I said, you know, she has 4 kids. I was the oldest of 4. And she was very young when she had me. And she was learning how to be, she was a kid raising a kid, you know. And there was a lot of things that she did to me that I perceived or took on as a feeling of her not loving me, right? And so I was medicated when I was very young on Ritalin because I was bouncing off the walls because my mom didn't know how to control me, raising 3 other children. You know, she had said some things to me in the past that made me question whether or not she loved me also. Now, I just want to say, like, my mom and I have recently healed from this. Like, her and I got tired of living like this, and we actually had a great, beautiful conversation. We're on the mend now, and I know she loves me and all this stuff, right? That's another powerful thing to do. But at the end of the day, I had carried this guilt my entire life, feeling like I had to prove people wrong, being told I can't do something, like, or feeling guilty for just who I am. And that guilt built this fear inside of me that I would never be worthy to anybody, you know, never be worthy of love and all that stuff. Even though I know to my soul, like, I have that endless amounts of that shit, right? Like I just said, there's still like this loneliness that gets attached to it. And there's nothing worse than feeling like you're navigating this life alone. In my opinion, It's really hard. You know what I mean? So
yeah, nothing's great unless you have people to share it with, man. Like, really,
community is so important.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you're sharing that energy with somebody, like co-creating anything with anybody, like, the shit you can do is just phenomenal.
Look at this. This conversation is a prime example of that,
Yeah.
man. Like, this is fucking awesome. Thanks for making the drive, dude. This is great.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. We're an hour and a half in. We're going to keep going.
Okay. Yeah. I ain't got shit to do.
Time constraints today? Okay.
No.
Okay. Because I feel like we're just getting started.
Yeah. No,
Would you like another beverage?
Yeah, I'll take another. Okay. Can we use a bathroom break?
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's
and
do
we're
that
going
and
to
come
come
back?
right back to
Okay.
it. Because I want to,
awesome.
when we come back, I would like to talk about, you know, some of the healing processes. I don't know what you can speak on, but think about that, and we'll come back to it.
Awesome. Sounds
All
good.
right, we'll be right back.
All right, cool.
All right, so we are back. I guess if we can dive into this, Ben, like,
Yeah.
we just unpacked a ton of shit. I love my conversations with you, man,
Thanks,
because
man.
I learned so much.
Likewise.
And the fact that it's recorded is even better because I can go back and actually listen to this, man. This
Appreciate
is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you always didn't think like this. Like, from a young man's perspective, when you have all that testosterone and no wisdom and, like, you know, how did you come to some of these realizations? I mean, this is another level of thinking that I don't think the average person really unpacks or spends the time, because I feel like people just get caught up in the rat race, myself even, right? Mm-hmm. And I've been more aware of this. And honestly, since talking to you, it's like, God, man, there's some shit that I need to lay out on the table and really look at, like, am I doing this the right way? Does this feel right? Is what I'm chasing, is it really what I want to do? Or is Or am I getting caught up? Like you start getting sponsorships or obligations and all this sort of stuff, or people want a piece of your time, or right? It can very easily, like this podcast could have gone astray from me very quickly. Like you sign with a major label or something, they have full creative control at that point, right? They're going to produce you any way that they want, right?
Yeah,
like,
to make their money.
Unless you're the creative director, right?
Right, sure.
And then they just fire your ass and do it anyways, right? Like, so if they're not getting what they want, like I've seen it happen a million times. So I guess like how did you unpack all this? I know on the last episode, man, you literally had me in tears, dude, telling me your story, and how close you came to taking your own life.
Yeah.
And I am so grateful that you're sitting here with me today, man, because I think the truth that you are spitting, man, and the truth that you are laying out for people can help so many individuals on so many different ways.
Thank you.
Even if you take one little piece of it, right? It's not...
Yeah.
Just that one little piece could change somebody's life or perspective or make them have a better relationship with their kids. Like,
yeah, for sure.
How did you unpack all this, man? Like,
well, I've always had a very, maybe like junior year of high school, I've always had a very healthy relationship with and curiosity around just like human performance in general. So I've always been nerding out. Like I was a kid running from my mom's house to school, it's like 4 miles or 5 miles one way and running home again, after school just to like be better at playing soccer. You know what I mean? Like I'm running track to be better at playing soccer. And then, so I've always been interested in like how to optimize myself to the nth degree, like obsessed. And I got to a point where, like I was kind of mentioning earlier, I started doing coaching, nutrition coaching, things of this nature. And I was just realizing that the people I was coaching, like there was something there. There's something beyond just the physical body that needed to be trained. And I started looking into like, sports psychology and things of this nature and just philosophy in general. And I was like, for me, it's always like, okay, I'm curious about this. I'm going to go do it first and see what I get out of it. And then I'm going to try and back engineer how to give that to other people.
And I'm sorry, when you say coaching, was it like sports coaching or was it
like personal training mostly?
Okay.
So like, I used to be I like to say I'm a recovering ultra endurance athlete. So like I was coaching ultra endurance athletes, also like a lot of firefighters, right? Because they want to like get on a hotshot crew. Like how can I train to be on a hotshot crew? Things of this nature. So it's a lot of that type of stuff. And also like
that's a job requirement for a hotshot, right? You have
physical
to be
fitness. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's some people take it more seriously than others, but at the end of the day, that's one of the things we're known for is being physically fit. So, and so I went through a program. I was kind of like quasi coaching for this company called Be the Wellness. They're still around. They're dope as hell. And I was like, they started this program called Authentic Self. And I was like, okay, well, this will give me a good idea to like sort of break into this. I'm like, I'm authentic as shit. Like, I ain't gonna learn shit, but it might be cool to check this out. And so I started this program. It was a year program, and I was doing it the first half of the year. I did it with my eldest daughter. She was like, I think 8 or 9 at the time. And I was just like, dude, it fucked me up. I was like, man, I got some shit to work on. Like, I'm not authentic at all. And so
just going through this one little program.
Yeah. Was year-long program.
Like it was just eye-opening.
It was eye-opening. It was about like going back and checking out our stories. Like what stories am I carrying around, that were given to me during that time period of neuroplasticity, that like first 14 years. Like what was told to me that I think is actually true, that isn't true, but I'm living my life by that. Right? So like I think about it like this. Back in the day, our ancestors, our indigenous relatives, they Native Americans, like all these people around here,
Primal
people had a direct contact and relationship with spirit, right? They worshipped spirits, gods, all these things, and they prayed, they did rituals, they understood the seasons, and they did rituals for all of these things. They had a practice that they had to spirit. So that even as soon as they were born, there was a ritual. And so they understood like consciousness to some degree, right? Consciousness is awareness, but I like to look at it in this term just to describe it is like our conscious mind is a library full of books, all the books. Our unconscious mind is the same library with no books. So if we don't have a relationship with spirit when we start coming into this world in our physical form, the library that doesn't have any books is being filled with stories from other people. So your operating system is off of these stories.
And especially whoever you trust the most, right? Like, who's protecting you?
100%. 100%.
This is how the Holocaust happened. Straight up.
This is how a lot of things happen,
Yeah.
right? So it's just like, so for me, it was that authentic self program. I was like, oh shit, like I have some stories here that I don't think are true. Like this feeling of not being worthy, like, wait a minute. And I have this like direct experience with a story of like I did this like hypnotherapy thing during it. And I remembered this thing that I'd totally forgotten. I was like 6, 7 years old. I was on the soccer field. We like tied or lost the game. I can't remember what happened, but like I missed a goal and then the game ended. And I'm coming off the field. My dad's the coach and I'm like super down on myself and I'm coming towards him and he shoots me this look that I perceived at the time as being disappointed. And it was like, boom, I am not worthy. That was the first time I could remember not being worth a shit. But in that moment, I remember seeing all the different parts of that. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. There's like 12 other 6-year-olds running at him at the same time. And he's just like, like, what am I doing? And he just so happened to have this like confused, like, how am I going to hurt all these kittens look? You know, like all they want right now is orange slices and Capri Suns. And I'm trying to like, and their parents are what, you know what I mean?
Right.
It had nothing to do with me.
Especially after hearing a little bit of his backstory. If you're not around kids often and you get around them, it is fucking nerve-wracking, bro. Like
100%. But you see how like that's how simple it can start. To like have this feeling of not being worthy of love from your father, right? And you don't even remember it. And I had an experience that I tapped into that and I was like, oh, wait a minute. There's no way that's true. And it shifts the paradigm. And then I started realizing, oh, wait a minute. We actually, there's like a whole mental game here that I'm not even focusing on. I'm so focused on like performance and like, how can I, drop a minute off a mile or reduce time, or how can I, lose more weight so I look lean, for whatever it is. And I'm like, dude, that's like, that's superficial bullshit. Like if you don't have your mental game squared up, like, this is everything that David Goggins talks about.
And I know that this has been a parent heavy podcast, but like to bring it back to that, have you read any of Stephen Pressfield's stuff?
Awesome. I should
Incredible.
Check it out. Okay.
Incredible.
Yeah,
especially if you're a creator or an artist. Some of his, I don't agree with everything that he says. Like there's some wild shit out there, but he is fucking an amazing writer.
Yeah.
But it just kind of the perspective of, he really talks about like becoming an artist and what it takes and the feelings that you have and the feelings of, God, what were you just saying? I'm drawing a blank right now of, inadequacy or
just not being good enough.
Not being good enough. Right.
Yeah,
and every creator goes through this.
Yes.
And one of the examples, which is kind of crazy, is he tells this example of this young girl coming home from like her choir class or something, or a church choir.
Mm-hmm.
And her mom had just worked a 16-hour day and is extremely tired, single mother trying to, provide for her family.
Yeah.
Her daughter singing in the living room.
Yeah.
and the mother just simply yells at her like, stop.
That's as simple
That's
as it
enough.
is. Yeah.
No more singing.
Yes.
And it basically
Yes.
stops
Yes.
the potential for this girl becoming
Yes.
the most incredible singer in the world.
And
right?
they attach
just
something
one
to yes.
one instance,
Yes,
right,
exactly.
of being told that you're not good enough,
That's
or
exactly
having
right.
that feeling, or
Yes.
whatever, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
that blew my mind. So it's just a
that's
a correlation.
A beautiful.
To that, right?
I mean, that is another beautiful example.
Like you might not even know that you're doing it as a parent. Just like
100%,
you're losing your cool and
100%.
you're yelling at your kid.
And it still happens to me.
Yeah.
It still happens to me.
Oh,
like
it happens to me
like
too.
even
It's
with
like,
the awareness
guys,
of it,
can you get off the therapy ball, please?
it still happens. Like or
Take a sense of pride.
or it's like with like my oldest daughter. I'm glad this is a parent heavy conversation because it's like as a parent, there's nothing more important to me than raising beautiful children.
Me too, man.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you just talked about being a creator. We're the creators of our own life, but we also have responsibility when we have children to co-create what they can have. And so it's such a beautiful responsibility. And I think it's important to highlight that because that's clearly the most important things that we have in our existence at the moment. So, but even simple to that, like, so for me, it's like, even with this awareness, I still trip up with my kids. Like, why is your grade? You know, my oldest daughter is incredibly intelligent and she's beautiful as hell. And she's an athlete. She's like
frightening, isn't it?
Absolutely frightening, dude. Like she's got it. She's got the trifecta on life. I don't know how, my wife and I created this thing that's just like light years better than a guy who got like C's and D's in high school. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but she's just like killing it with like no like help from me. I never helped her on a math anything, and she's just like crushing it. So at the end of the day, she gets. She's a straight A student and then she gets like a B. And I'm like, what's going on with this B? Like, what are you doing with this B? Like, you need to get that up. Da, 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 da. And then I walk away. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I was like, I need to go back. Hey, actually, I don't care if you get a B, but let's just talk about why you have a B because what's going on in your thing? Cause I know you're an A student. I know your potential. I see your potential. Mm-hmm. It's like, what's going on in the background that's preventing you from getting your A? Because she has goals. She wants to go to a really good college and stuff like this, right? So I'm like, hey, to get this, like, I'm going to help you. I want to make sure that you're aware of this goal. So what's happening in the background? Let's understand this together. And she goes, oh, okay, well, now tests are 65% of your grade. I'm like, oh, shit, that's crazy. Like, what?
What?
Yeah, in California, that's what it is.
I wouldn't have passed high school.
No fucking way, dude. No way.
You passed high school?
I graduated early because I had to go to work. They were like, get this motherfucker out of here before he breaks any more
Classic,
stuff.
dude.
Yeah.
So, but to me, it's like, okay, cool.
Football
like,
season's over. Let him graduate.
so for me, it's like, and that's another beautiful opportunity, right? Because a lot of times, like we make assumptions as humans. That's just what we do. Like I think it's just our operating system, right? Instead of trying to actually understand what's going on, we're trying to go from point A to point B as fast as possible. And we fill in the gaps with assumptions. So it is what we all do it.
Yeah, especially when you reach the top tier of something, to stay on top is a whole nother level, right?
Yeah.
Like that,
Yeah.
that takes even more effort, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're a world champion kickboxer,
Sure.
right, you only hold that title for so long.
Yeah, man.
And then it can be a very slippery slope to where you go all the way back down to rock bottom and guys have restarted their career to get like the wherewithal that goes with that, man. Like, good friend of mine, Dustin Jacoby, second run in the UFC, it's like,
that's crazy. Yeah.
Like over, 20 years of just fucking fighting,
just working.
but he loves it, right?
Yeah, that's inspiring. So it's important to, like, what I was saying is like, it's important to know, like, in that situation, instead of like attaching guilt to that experience to your kid or anybody, instead, like, it's about asking a better question. It's about, instead of making an assumption about the intention behind an individual, what I've come to understand is about asking a better question to understand their perspective, because their perspective, very rarely does someone have like a negative intention in mind. Very rarely.
No, especially as a parent. Like,
no, and your kids too. Like, no one's trying to fuck you. Like, most of the time, like, sure, there's dickheads out there that are doing that, but like at the end of the day, asking questions about, like, if you are questioning what's going on, ask a question to understand their perspective, to understand that they were maybe lacking perspective, but their intentions were good, and then maybe you have the ability to give more perspective that allows a better decision or a better path to be walked. And to me, that's another thing about parenting.
Not to mention, then you have somebody in your corner too, because you're both laying it all out on the all the chips are out on the table, right? Like you can see everything, and like if you're honest, if both sides are honest in that, then you feel invested. You know, it's weird.
So to go back to, I guess, where I can't.
Coming back full circle. We're going to dive off a bunch, and
I don't
care.
I
this
love
is
it
all
so
for
much.
me. So like, I appreciate everybody that listens to the podcast, but this conversation is for us, for sure.
So how I got into some of this like deep philosophical thinking is, it really did start in 2000. Like I said, I've always been curious about human performance. And I can't even talk about this stuff, honestly. Like if I'm going to actually be this authentic person, I can't talk about these things without talking about psychedelics. I just can't. Like psychedelics have 100% given me the opportunity to go deeper into who I am and actually understand who I am, how I react in this external world, and also have a connection and a practice to like the spiritual aspect of life. And I know spiritual kind of like throws people off sometimes. Like I'm not dogmatic about it. Like it's just I use psychedelics in a way to allow me to have a practice with spirit, so that I can, we're kind of getting some weird shit right now, but like
let's get weird,
so that
man.
I can,
I'm ready.
So that I can access.
We already broke the ice.
So that I can access consciousness in a way that allows unlimited information to come into me, so that I'm accessing that library full of books. So in 2015 or 16, my curiosity peaked around psychedelics and what it could do is from a performance perspective, because I had this performance background. I did ayahuasca, and it just completely changed my life about like what was possible, what the truth is about things. I took a very long break, integrated that into my life, and the next time I did any kind of psychedelic was in 2020 when I was struggling with thoughts of suicide. And I just like in that moment, like I said on the last podcast, like I remember I'm sitting on the edge of my bed in this like beautiful day. It was like a fall. It was like this time of year. Actually, it was like November-ish a little bit actually. My windows are open in my bedroom. I'm sitting on the end of my bed and the sun's pouring in on me, and it's just like hitting my skin, and it felt amazing. I had no reason to be unhappy. The day was beautiful. And here I am on the edge of my bed, just like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like, it'd just be better if I wasn't here, right? Family leaves, they go off to do their thing. I think my wife was dropping off the kids, and she's doing that or something. And in that moment, I'm just like so miserable. And it's like everything's perfect and I'm not perfect, like whatever. And I found myself ready to kill myself, and sobering moment, like what am I doing? Collapse to the floor, like shaking, like what the fuck? Oh my God, something needs to fix me. Like I need to do something. And I found courage in that moment. And courage, I apologize if I'm repeating things that we've talked about before, but courage.
Oh, it's fine, man. Yeah. It's a visceral fucking moment in your life, and a story that it gets me emotional, dude. I'm like seriously trying
because
to
we
keep
all
it
know
together
somebody
right
that
now.
didn't find courage.
No, and
it's sad as fuck.
Yeah.
Like, and courage is the difference maker. And I'm lucky that I found it. I'm not saying I'm better than the individual that didn't. I'm just saying I'm fucking so much gratitude for, I don't know, someone showing me that, something showing me that, or me being open to that. So I found courage.
I'm grateful for it too, man.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
You wouldn't, not having been in this world I think would be a heavy blow, and I feel horrible for anybody. I guarantee you 90% of the people listening to this know somebody that they've lost to suicide.
Maybe 100% actually, unfortunately. But like so I found courage, and the courage was just like, you have to do something. You can't just give up. And that was the moment I was like, okay, what do I do? And I didn't want to first I had to tell somebody. So I told my wife, like, hey, I'm having this issue. Like, I need support. And she was obviously like, okay, like, what do we do? Whatever you need. Like, I don't care what it is. Let's do something. But I just know, like, she is a product of, or she was a product, or I shouldn't say a product. She has gone through like our normal medical system of just like antidepressants and talk therapy and blah, 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 blah. And again, like, that helps people to some regard. I don't want to, I'm not trying to talk shit about it, but
I'm not a fan of it.
But I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan either, because I've seen what it does to people. Like SSRIs and antipsychotics were only supposed to be a short-term fix while somebody goes through a therapeutic session to get off of them and then enter the world again, right? It was you can look that up. Like, that's what they were for. But people are on this shit for like years.
Sometimes a lifetime.
A lifetime. Exactly.
Or half a lifetime, whenever that crack happened,
100%. So to me, I'm just like, I saw her, and like, I was just like, man, I don't want to do that. Like, I can't go on these drugs and shit. And, I don't want to go talk to somebody who doesn't actually understand me, who, like, cause the way I look at this is there's a difference between knowing and understanding. I know I talked about this, but knowing is like a smoker smoking cigarettes. Every cigarette smoker in the world right now knows that that'll give them cancer or shorten their life to some degree, right? I would be shocked if they didn't. They teach it in school. Like, understanding is that same smoker going to the doctor and the doctor saying, you now have cancer from smoking cigarettes. Hits way different. Right?
100% different, right? Like,
so,
God, I knew this was going to catch up to me in the back of my mind, but I did nothing about it. That sort of guilt.
Yeah.
Could you imagine that sort of guilt?
And that's understanding. That's awareness, right? Yeah. So for me, I'm telling my wife this stuff, and I was like, I don't want to go do this normal medicine or this doctor shit, whatever. That's not what I want. I had done psychedelics in the past, and they helped me a lot. And I was like, and it was like one time, changed my life. That's what I want to do. I want to go find this healing for me. And I don't care what anybody thinks about psychedelics in general. I know there's a lot of fear wrapped up in that, and there's a lot of like culture. Even though things are changing, I think there's like a renaissance happening right now.
There definitely is, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of curiosity.
And there's a lot of research now that actually is starting to show like the benefits of it, for sure.
Myself included, man. Like, I've had some experiences, and they were never purpose driven. It was always recreationally.
Yeah.
Like, in a party environment,
Absolutely.
which isn't the best environment, right?
No, but when you're a kid, you don't know any better.
Yeah, I didn't know any better. But now I'm heavily curious in tapping into some of that. I just feel, I think the timing has to be right for a person.
You have to.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
I think
talk about that
the
for
environment
Very
that
important.
you're in.
Setting.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then I think that also consulting a professional physician, I mean, obviously you can't go to your normal doctor, which I don't anyways. Even for what I was going through with high blood pressure, I went to my normal doctor, and they were like, you need to stop eating red meat, you need to take this medication, and you need to cut salt out of your diet. When I actually went to people that work with professional athletes and work on nutrition, I did the exact opposite of whatever the primary doctor. And literally I was off blood pressure medication within 6 weeks? Something like that. I can't remember.
I want to say it was 2 months, but yeah.
Yeah.
It was close.
I mean, drastic change. And literally all I was eating was red meat and salt.
Affirmed, dude. That's all I eat right now.
It was fucking heavy, dude. Like,
that is my diet.
Not to mention the weight loss that I had,
Yeah.
And I will say that some of that drastic weight loss was muscle mass too, because your body,
Sure.
Yeah.
But you reach
anyways,
an optimal place, you know?
Yeah. But besides all that, like, I think that you need to go to some sort of, I think that there are some DNA, some genetical things that where this could have an adverse effect on you mentally taking psychedelics. I know that is an issue. Like if schizophrenia or psychosis or something like that is prevalent in the family, probably don't want to go down that path.
Affirmative. Yeah. I mean, we can't even touch on, I mean, the thing is the tricky part about telling these stories, right? Is like, I'm going to say all these great things that I got from this, all these benefits, and then someone might be inspired. The responsible thing of us to do right now is to say like, it's not for everybody.
Sure. Disclaimer.
Right, like it's not for everybody. You have to do your homework. It is probably good to consult a physician or whatever. You probably
need to be a certain age in your life and not be
100%.
dropping acid like when I was at 12 years old on top of a roof. You know what I mean? Like,
and I don't even want to talk about that stuff, like as far as, because I don't want to fuck up. I don't want to give advice that sounds stupid, but I know like if you're past your, like your mid 20s and you're into your 30s, usually psychosis you're pretty safe. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, like, this is just my story, my perspective, how I reached what I was doing, and I can't talk about the things that happened to me, like the questions you're asking, without talking about it.
No, 100%. So this is exactly what I want on here is honesty. I want to have a real conversation. Like, forget everybody that's listening right now. Yeah. That is important to me, but like, totally. I don't mean that in a. Like, this is me wanting to learn about your experiences. Yeah, and I think one reason why we've had so much success here is I've kept that model in all conversations. Mm-hmm. And nothing that we do here is scripted. Like, we literally just walked in and hit record today.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
And look at where the conversation has gone, dude. Like, we're 2 hours in now. You know what I mean? Which is awesome, right? And it feels like we're just getting started.
I know it does, right? That's so weird.
So I guess now that we've made all the disclaimers and that sort of thing, for the listeners, because that is in the back of my mind, right? Like,
mine too, for sure.
I don't know how much you want to share, because I feel like this is probably the most intimate, and I don't mean like in a sexual way, like the most personal question you could ask is for somebody to share, number one, their true feelings.
Sure.
Especially when it comes to taking your own life is unbelievable, which you've shared with us already. Yeah. But number two, like those journeys that helped you out of that, and what was some of the like visualization and like how drastic was that transition coming out of it or coming down, whatever you want to call it, off of these psychedelics, and how painful was that? Like, what did you go through? Was there like therapy behind that? Because
for sure.
I think that's another thing. Like, you can unpack all this shit, but it does not fix it, right?
Yeah. So I'll start with the suicide one. Transparency purposes, I have lost count of how many ceremonies I've been to at this point. Like, there's well over 100 probably, or more. I don't know.
Wow. From your community, like people you knew firsthand?
Psychedelic use that I've been involved with.
I'm sorry. You said suicide, so
no.
Okay, I'm thinking like funerals.
No.
Okay,
I'm talking about.
Totally took that out of context.
It's okay. No, I'm just talking psychedelic use. So like, I want to talk about the experience. Like I'll talk about I'll unpack the experience that I had on psilocybin in a legal ceremonial context. For that healing purpose, and then we can talk about maybe a couple other ones, because there's so many now that it's really hard to we would just be here forever. So what happened is, like, I decided, okay, I needed to do that. I wanted to do psilocybin, so I found a place that would allow me to do that legally, right? Because that's a fear, right? You don't want to do things. My job, all these things, kids, like all this stuff, right? So I find this place, and I go there, and I do this ceremony, and I take 5 grams of psilocybin, and I don't know what kind of mushroom it was at the time, but that's what I did, and that's what would be quote unquote labeled as a heroic dose. So I did this, and
why did they label it as a heroic dose?
Well, there's just like, we just microdosing, which is like,
Sure.
like no psych or no like,
Visions or
there's no visions. There's no, like, you can barely even feel it. It's just like enhances the mood and your awareness a little bit. Right. And then there's like in between phases, and then heroic dose is like, you're going in the medicine. Like you are in the shit.
You're in the portal.
You're fucking there, dude.
Yeah.
And so like I did that, and anyways, what happened in the very beginning, what happened is I came into this experience and it felt very feminine, just like that. There's always this weird energy that happens, like and it kind of feels masculine or feminine sometimes. It felt feminine. And what I was directly started the experience with was going into this experience, and I visually see this woman feeding her children food at the dinner table. And then I come in and I just like kick this door down as they're eating dinner. And I'm just like, hey, asking all these questions. And she's like, whoa, dude, like chill the fuck out. Like, you're welcome here in my home, right, in this psychedelic space. But you need to be not so aggressive. So like, I'm like, oh, okay, I apologize. I'm really sorry. And then she asks me a question like, what's going on? And I just rattle off all these questions. She's like, okay, you need to die now. And she kills me, which would be labeled an ego death in many, many places. So I have this ego.
Okay, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
Because I want to dissect this a little bit. Mm-hmm. So an ego death, I mean, it obviously sounds like, so whoever's helping guide this journey or this psychedelic experience for you, is an ego death, is that a general term to like, is this something that happens commonly against
it can
a lot of different people that
have I don't know, have I explained to you my definition of what the ego is?
I think we dove into it a little bit last time we had we touched on it, but I don't think we did a deep dive on it. So I'm willing to take this wherever you want to go, dude. Like, this is your time.
So real quick, like a lot of people don't even understand what the ego is. Like, this is how I've defined the ego in my perspective, from my perspective. So everybody, you get born into this physical dimension or world, whatever you want to call it, and you have this little like picture, like a little caricature with no face, just like a little whatever, right? And this thing gets put into this area, and around him or her is a square foundation built by bricks, okay? Depending on what stories or what kind of life you're born into, the level or height of those bricks might be higher or lower. So if people listen to Joe Rogan, he talks about it like a starting line. Some people are starting way further back than other people. This might be considered privilege. You know what I mean? Some people call it that. So depending on what you're born into, like your bricks might be higher or lower than some other people. You might have 1 layer of bricks. You may have 2 feet of bricks. Okay. Those bricks resemble stories. So you're born into a story already, depending on who you are. So all these stories exist. And as you exist in your life, this little character inside is, putting more bricks and building these bricks up higher. Boop, 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 boop. And they're building these bricks. And sometimes these bricks get so high and you build a roof over the top of you that you're living in darkness. And that thing in the middle is you. It's yourself. That's your that's your authentic person. But the only thing everybody sees on the outside are your stories. That's what's being projected. And it takes a courage and character of the will to look at the bricks from the inside and realize that they're not letting you live your life appropriately. And you need to start understanding those and smashing them out and building windows or build a door or make them transparent. Like you're not, and so the wall itself is the ego. It's trying to protect the soft, supple, little fragile person inside. But the ego is built on your stories. So you're never going to get rid of the ego completely, but you need to we go back to the experience, right? I'm asking all these questions. I'm being aggressive, To understand the character in the middle, you have to have a death of the ego, which means you have to blow the walls down so that you can actually exist and actually understand who you are and what is actually truthful, what's real. And so the ego death is that. It doesn't have to happen for everybody, but in this circumstance, it had to happen for me. So that because the suicidal tendencies or the suicidal thoughts, I was asking these questions and searching for answers and all these things. And what was told to me is like, that's all bullshit. Your questions are fucking garbage. Like the truth is around you.
To take it back, were they questions to solve problems? Were you looking to solve problems, or was it just like,
it's like, who am I? What am
know
I?
Something?
Yeah, like, why am I here? Why am I in pain? Like, what the fuck's going on? All these like existential questions. And it's just like, well, just slow down, dude. Like, okay, let's die. Let's remove your ego for a little bit. Let's get rid of these stories for a little bit, and we can start understanding yourself. And you can see like how connected you are to everything.
Did that take you back to a vulnerability state, I guess, a little bit?
No, that's the thing is like, no, it takes you to actually very, very freeing and empowering state. For me, I realized like, wow, I'm actually a part of all of this. I'm very connected. Actually, what I realized was our life is made up of endless moments, endless. As soon as you come into a moment, you're exiting that moment into another moment, and it just keeps going and going and going. And there's no reason why would I leave this moment just to go to the next moment? I'm not really leaving I'm not like, just enjoy this moment because you're going to be in the next moment in a minute. Like just give it some time.
Yeah.
So there's
if
to
you
me,
want to break it down even further, I mean, you go to seconds, milliseconds, like
and then you realize time doesn't even exist. So like really, so at the end of the day, I made this realization that like really what was happening to me. So I had to experience an ego death 3 times in that experience to get to and the last time that I had to experience is like, it killed me the second time. And I came to this space. I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, this is a beautiful life and I shouldn't leave this life. I need to just be living and just enjoying all of this. I get it. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to set the couch up perfectly and I'm going to sit here and like I'm sitting in a movie chair and I'm just going to experience this life. And it's like, no, you don't get it. It kills me again. And it's like, and I came back and I was like, what the fuck? It's beautiful again. I'm like,
so this is all your visualization.
This is my visualization, the feeling
that's happening while you're
Yep.
under the influence of psilocybin.
Yep.
Or this is like post.
No, this is in the moment.
Wow.
And it tells me, it's like, you are not someone watching a movie. You are a participant. Like, be involved. And I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. Like, if I want to actually experience this life from a beautiful perspective and create all the things I want to create, all these things, I have to actually participate. I can't just be sitting on the sidelines, you know what I mean? And that's when things changed. Then I had this whole conversation like, okay, what are my needs versus my wants? We talked about that last time. And like, okay, what's desire? Like, desire.
Well, just your list of 6 things. Is it 6 or 7?
7, yeah. I can't remember right off the top of my head right now, but like
that, I literally went back and wrote those down just so I could excavate and understand it a little bit better. Cause we kind of like flew through it that night.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people can go back and listen to that, or we can bring it up in it here, but I want to learn more about your journeys and your experiences and kind of
let's do
some of your feelings after that. But
sure,
those 6 things, just to fire through them real quick. I think now that I've had more time to look at it and dissect it, it's helped me.
Cool.
I mean,
hell yeah, that's what's
I
up.
think it could help anybody. Like I think about it, it's something that you could give to a kid as soon as they could understand.
Yeah, for sure.
Emotions, right?
Yeah,
The first time that they can understand, I'm having a bad feeling and I don't like it.
Yeah,
those principles could apply.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
And so like real quick, it's like the first one is like taking care of the physical body. So it's nutrition, sleep, movement.
Hey, sugar crash. There you go.
That's the first one. If you're not doing that, then you're not taking care of what I would say the chemistry experiment that we call a body, right? So we got to take care of that. The next one is being an observer. And I compare this to like sitting on a park bench watching people play in the park, right? Everybody in the park playing around doing their things. That's all like an emotional based state. So like the guy who just stepped in dog shit is angry, like
I remember talking about
like the old couple walking holding hands, like, you know what I mean? Like, and understanding that all those things change, but from an observer's perspective, you allow them to change unaffected. That's the observer. Now I'm don't identify Like we talked about, don't identify as making sure that you just have the understanding that all things change. The only thing permanent is impermanence. Okay. And like I said earlier, how you navigate that change is the amount of love you carry through it.
Sure.
The next one is acceptance. Like accept that there's things in this life that you can't fucking change. Like so many things. Like just accept that if you get hit by somebody on the freeway in your car, unaware of what happened, like there's nothing you can do about that. Accept that it happened. Your destiny is how you, like being the creator of your life is how you respond to that situation.
Yeah.
Then you get to create the experience. Sharing perspective, letting go. I think that was it.
I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's
I think it
7.
was six or seven, something like that.
6 or 7, yeah. And then I know fear was in there too that we had talked about previously because I remember writing that down. But yeah, you nailed them all.
And so
yeah, those are awesome things. I highly encourage you, if you're listening to this now, go ahead and finish listening to this, but go back and listen to episode 121. It was 121, Jeremy?
24.
Oh, 124. Okay.
Even
124.
better.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. This is going to be episode 140. So
Word.
yeah,
Word.
not that long ago.
So that gets me to that stuff. So once I understood that, then I realized like, okay, these are my actual needs to be a successful human for me to navigate life, because I had everything else. I had shelter, I had food, like, I mean, obviously those things are needs too, but like I had all that in spades already. That's not a worry. So, but I need to do this. Now my wants still exist just like everybody else's, but they are not here to replace a feeling of being lost or loneliness or anything like this. It's just to make life doper.
Yeah.
Like,
let's go. Let's
so
go.
it's just
let's
like,
blow some shit up.
yeah,
dude.
like
No,
I
I'm
want,
just
yeah, you want to blow some shit up? Hell yeah, I want to go blow some shit up too. Like, oh, I want that super sick car. Like, I want that super sick car. But if I don't
I
get it,
always
like,
joke with all my friends, like, because I always hung out with the pyrotechnicians and
Yeah,
stuff, and I
yeah,
was
dope.
like, God, I should have been a pyro, but they would never let me pass the class,
Yeah.
dude. Like,
that's awesome. So anyways, once I moved out of my own way and that experience, my life changed. The post psychedelics in general, post work of any kind where you unpack some deep stuff, there has to be an integration on the back end where you take time to integrate what you've learned into your life so that you can make the appropriate changes to successfully live your life.
are you doing this on your own, or is there other people involved? Like,
Yeah, it depends
because
on the individual, I think.
sometimes an outside perspective, right?
Yeah.
Or another person's perspective might
Yeah.
influence.
And
Like,
that's
probably a lot to figure out, right?
It is, but I love it. I love doing it by myself too. Honestly, like I will write, I will journal. Like I've been writing a book for like forever now, and like every time.
Are you? That's
yeah.
fucking awesome.
And
I'll be the first one to buy it, dude. I'm gonna buy it. Can I have the first copy?
Yeah, fuck it,
All
I'll
right,
give you
gotta
number
sign
one,
it.
number un.
I'll come get it from you. We'll
you
come
go.
to you to record next
Yeah,
time.
that's what's up. And so like, you know, I write all these things in there, and then so that part, and then yes, I obviously speak very openly about this stuff. You know, that's part of my curiosity, is like sharing perspective. Sharing perspective is how we collectively grow closer together. That's actually on the list. So sharing perspective of a need, and I just always remember when sharing perspective, I just think of like ancient people sitting around a fire telling stories about the game that they caught, or like, you know, or whatever. You know, I think that's such a dope thing that we've been missing.
It is so incredible that I have a total infatuation with it now, to where I've studied.
Yeah.
I've gone down some serious rabbit holes, and I have a really good friend that recommended a book to me just a few months ago that has been mind-blowing, that kind of connects nature to indigenous culture, to religion, to like, it's beyond my thinking capabilities, and I'm pretty sure that there's some psychedelics, and
I'm sure
they actually talk about it in the book.
Probably.
You know, how some of these cultures achieved visualization into the spirit world, and some of their beliefs. Like, just one, for example, that really sticks out to me, and I applied it because hunting, even though I'm a bow hunter, like, you know, I feel like it's put in this category or in this box where you have to be Cameron Haynes, and this isn't a dig on him or
No, I
anything
get
like
it.
that,
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
you have to show
I get it.
your big trophy bull,
Sure,
and you have to
sure.
be this
The
badass,
discipline,
and it's
yeah,
very
yeah,
much an ego,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And that,
yeah.
especially in the bow hunting community, it's very, very ego driven.
Yeah.
It almost to a point to where it taints it. It puts a bad taste in everybody else.
Like you're not a real bow hunter if you're not doing it this way.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, it's more about a spiritual connection to the point where I don't even share any of it. And I've gone down even a further spiritual past or connection with the past. And fortunately, my very good friend, Donnie Duss, who you just recently had some interaction with,
Yeah.
you know, he made all these stone tools, and he had a similar experience spiritually, I guess, not suicide or anything that I know of. But like he was at a point in his life where he was a rock climber, former Marine, loved the outdoors, had the baddest ass thing that you could buy from REI, the baddest ass sleeping bag,
Sure.
the baddest ass, you know, backpack, the best rock climbing gear, you know, whatever he needed or he thought that he needed to enjoy the outdoors. And one moment he kind of woke up out of some sort of dream or something, and Donnie would have to tell the story. I'm sorry if I'm butchering this, Donnie. And he just decided, like, this isn't the actual connection that I want to have with nature, so I'm going to take it back as far as I can, and I'm going to have a primitive experience. And he started making his own stone tools, hunting that way, becoming a hunter-gatherer. Like, he still lives a normal...
Totally.
In the moment life.
But he's connected.
He's connected with nature in a different way. So he invited me on a bison experiment that was happening through CU Boulder with Dr. Devin Pettigrew. Shout out to him too. But we took stone tools and they tested their effectiveness on an actual bison carcass. And then Donnie and I and Dr. Pettigrew and several other people that were there field dressed and butchered the whole thing using nothing but stone tools for the entire process.
That's badass.
And it was so fucking humbling.
Yeah, man.
And it was so cool because he had made me a bunch of these tools that had been sitting on the table for over 2 years.
Yeah.
And then I asked him, I was like, can I actually take these so that I can use that? Like, because I'm a big thing in like, you can build something that's beautiful, like,
sure,
you know, but
totally.
until it's used.
Yeah. Right? There's the meaning. There's the purpose behind
these,
it, right?
I mean, how badass are these? And now there's even a connection with it. Like,
is that what you used?
These blooded, yeah. So I actually cut out the heart with that. Not to get too graphic, but like, you know, that particular piece right there removed the heart.
Yeah, well, that's so cool, man.
Or some of the organs.
And it worked pretty well.
Yeah, and then you know, taking that meat home and sharing it with your family, and Donnie sharing that with me, and like. Just that whole experience and like the connection that Donnie and I have now, you can't explain that to anybody else. I can't explain it here on this podcast. It's different.
That's next level shit,
right? So when you start connecting with nature, and to bring it back full circle, I think there's a huge correlation that we have lost our connection with nature to the point that now our creativity has made skyscrapers and made, you know,
I have so much
air
to
conditioning to sit in and heat to sit in. And God, I'm cold. And now we're taking ice baths to put ourselves in a fucking vulnerable situation or discomfort, right?
Yeah.
Like cold therapy is a thing now and sauna therapy. And it's like, there was none of that shit back then. And, but anyways, to bring it back full circle, like the spell of the sensuous. Have you heard of this book?
No.
Jeremy, look up The Spell of the Sensuous. I think it's David Abrams. Really good friend of mine turned me on to this. And you definitely, this is something that's right up your alley, man. It's a pretty mind-blowing book. But you have to be open-minded to nature and indigenous cultures. And
well, I'll say like... in the psychedelic work that I've had, we talked about fear pretty deeply. I had an experience where everything was about fear. You know, all the skyscraper shit I was talking about, that all came from an experience that I had. The fear, the doubt relationship. the reason why we're here, the mind, the purpose stuff, all that came from one experience. And one of the things that was shown to me in that experience was how we are increasingly becoming more disconnected from nature. Wow. And it was
wait till you read this book.
Yeah.
Dude.
It told, what I was shown was like, Mother Nature, everything that we need as humans is here for us. Now, yes, we innovate. That's part of our purpose, just to create possibilities. Yes. But we have gotten to a place
we're problem solvers, dude.
Yeah, but we've gotten to a place where we're taking and not giving back. And that's the issue that is really, really difficult for nature, Mother Nature specifically, to accept. It's like she's willingly giving it to us. Like but I'm giving this to you. This is a gift. And we're just taking it. Right. And not only just taking it, but we're not showing any respect. In many ways, we're damaging.
I think the respect and appreciation are the biggest things, because even though, like, say, this is a stone, right? Mm-hmm. This is made from stone and wood. Donnie physically took this from the ground, chipped it, made it into a tool, hafted it, put this handle on it so it could be more useful. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the most used pieces to field dressing that bison, that then turned around and provided more life to my kids, myself, right? It didn't have to. I could go to the grocery store, but...
Yeah. But you're allowing that connection to continue to take place.
Correct. And so when it comes to hunting or conservation, like, I want to be very clear on this. Like, that's one thing that the spell the sensuous touches on a lot, is conservation.
Yeah.
And sometimes taking from Mother Nature is actually helping her, right? So
explain.
Okay, so let's bring it back to fire, for example, right?
Yeah.
A wildfire goes through an area
sure
that has a ton of downfall, undergrowth. The soil is losing nutrients because there's so much plant life and so much vegetation that it can't support it all. Mm-hmm. So it starts to die. Mm-hmm. Fire goes through and burns. Mm-hmm. It creates new life, right? Mm-hmm. There's actually, and I don't know if I talked about this with you or with Brandon. Did I tell you about the tribe that, okay, I don't think so. We're going to dive into that here in a minute, but we're going down so many rabbit holes. But like, on a burn scar, if you've ever hunted, and especially in Colorado, like, some of the most nutrient rich food for elk and deer happens on that burn scar.
For sure. Yeah.
And the animals will hang out, bears, birds, mice.
But but the fire's not taking.
It's
giving back.
Exactly.
So I think the only difference between what you and I are saying is like, take what I'm saying when I say take, I mean you're taking and not giving back.
Sure.
Even to the extent of like appreciation.
Okay. Yeah.
Like even it, like, you can take something, but just give thanks. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mother Earth, for providing this to me so that I can feed my family.
Sure.
Versus, like, every time we go to the gas pump and we're filling in our gas, like, we go on our lives, but that gas came from somewhere. Like,
well, anything, the loaf of bread you grab off the shelf.
Absolutely everything.
Yeah.
All comes from her. So, like, at the end of the day, like, to me, it's like taking is just the, maybe it's taking, but not showing the gratification. And it could be as simple as just like, before you lay down, just saying thank you for this life. Thank you for this experience, like, whatever it is. Like, I love prayer, and I know it gets very we start rolling into spiritual and religion, all this shit. Like, I wouldn't say I'm necessarily religious or anything. I'm very spiritual, obviously. But before I go to bed, I give thanks. I just say, thank you for this life. Thank you for the things that you provided me. Thank you for allowing me to experience this thing. And I'm stoked to do it again tomorrow.
I think reflection on gratitude on a daily basis is something that I've applied in my life. Thanks to Justin Wren. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
No.
Amazing human. Shout out Justin.
Yeah, man.
He's doing all kinds of amazing work with pygmy tribes in Africa and
dope.
stuff, like getting them
Okay.
clean water. And
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
a
yeah.
former UFC fighter, and
Cool.
like to the point where he almost died from like a parasite, and
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
but he's just a selfless human being. Like
Right.
he
That's
does
cool.
what he enjoys. And,
That's awesome.
anyways, where was I going with that?
Gratitude.
Just gratitude. And one of the things I took from him from a podcast, it was actually him and Rogan. Shout out to Rogan too for having some of these guys on their platform, is like he had a 5-minute journal that he did every day.
Yeah.
And I can't remember exactly what all the parameters were of the 5-minute journal, but one of them that I took away from it and applied was just taking, 1 minute, 2 minutes. What am I grateful for? I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for everything that I have.
Yeah.
Like, I think people just have these blinders on sometimes. Like,
Totally.
fuck, I got to go to work.
Totally.
Do I have time to stop at Starbucks?
Yeah,
Do I,
totally.
shit, traffic's horrible, like all those things just kind of add up, and it's just blinders, right?
Yeah.
To like,
Yeah.
sometimes it's all right. I think that's honestly really helped me, and it's helped me drive where I want this podcast to go. It's like, it's not always about it reaching the biggest platform or having the most downloads. It's like, I should just be grateful for the moments that I get to have in here with somebody
people.
like Ben or Chris or Donnie or
anybody.
whoever.
The ripple effect off of that is worth it.
Yeah.
No matter how many people, no matter how many listeners are listening,
Yep.
even just one ripple effect off of one person is going to change the paradigm. That's something
100%.
I constantly trying to remind myself. I'm like, no one needs a big following. It just, can you change the paradigm in one person, even just in yourself?
Yeah, I think that I get more out of this probably than my listeners do.
Yeah, for sure. That's what's
Selfishly, you know
dope.
what I mean? It's fucking awesome.
It's amazing.
And it's cool that I have people that listen and genuinely enjoy it, and we get messages like, hey, thanks for sharing this, or
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand this perspective, or hey, I think you're wrong, you should check. I've actually gotten fact checked by
Totally.
some of the listeners where I've been wrong, and I'm like, okay, fuck, I
My
guess I
bad.
was wrong. My
Yeah,
bad. And I guess that's one thing I want people that do listen to me. A lot of times I am thinking out loud. Like, that's kind of what podcasting is.
It's a human
Just
experience.
because I say it doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
that it's truly what I believe. Like, sometimes it's just thinking out loud, you know? Sometimes it's sometimes I learn something from it, or sometimes I go back and listen to it and I'm like, what the fuck was I talking about? You know what I mean? Like, but it's thinking out loud, especially in those early on episodes.
Yeah.
But to bring it back to nature and kind of what I was talking about with the bow hunting and the ego
Sure.
and that whole sort of community, this year with hunting and this book really made me like, okay, because I always knew that I had like a connection to Native American culture. There is a tiny, minuscule little bit of it in my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd always had that connection. That's why I'm a bow hunter. That's why I grew up in a family of bow hunters. They've always had a fascination with it, even when it wasn't cool, like, I guess, right? Going generations deep. So that was kind of instilled in me. But I never really put it together until I read this book.
Yeah, I love that.
And it was mind-changing. I had the most... I didn't kill an elk this year, but I had the most amazing trip just going into the wilderness with a different perspective.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that last sentence on that book was really, or on the description, was dope. What was this major work of ecological philosophy startles the senses out of habitual ways of perception. That's dope.
This is one of the best. And dude, it's $12.29.
Yeah.
You can
I'll
spend
get
that
it for
much
sure.
at,
I'll get it on the audio, man. I got a long drive
at
ahead of me.
Starbucks, yeah.
Oh, that book up there is really cool too. If
It's
you scroll
actually,
up.
if you have Audible, it's free.
There, the flowering wand. That's
Yeah.
a very interesting book too.
Okay.
I just read
I'm going to
that
add
one.
that to my list. Book for a book. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, if you have Audible, this is a free book too.
Yeah.
Which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, man. Hell yeah.
Great shit. Okay.
What do you want to do next?
Well, we're at 2.5 hours.
Yeah, we're killing it.
I think that I think that we need to wrap this up.
I'll finish the one thing. The one thing with the psychedelic stuff. So just to put a bow on it, is like once I excavated and moved past my personal trauma that I had suffered through, I entered into a place where I can talk. This sounds really crazy, but where I can have conversations with consciousness directly. And that ability has been able to gift me the ability to talk about very, very interesting conversations and topics that I can apply instantly in my life and also use it to serve other people. So, and I couldn't have done that until I got that out of the way, my suffering out of the way. So now I'm having these conversations on these deep levels in a way that allows me to serve life better.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
How good does that make you feel knowing that you've gone that far? Is there still a level of fear at this point, or like do you ever fear like, God, you're so open, like it's so rare in a person to be this transparent with your feelings, your emotions.
Thank you.
Your and it's very genuine. Like there's no, like I don't feel like gross by it. You know what I mean? Like sometimes people share too much, like
sure,
and it's just like, why are you telling me this, dude? Like,
because they're not
I don't
convinced
want to
yet.
know.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's the wrong content too, right? Like there are some
setting with that in general. Like, I fear, dude.
Like
I have
it's
doubts.
not a good. Sometimes it's not a good perception to share everything that you've been through, right?
Yeah, totally.
But like you're sharing some of your biggest hurdles, whether it's from being a parent to sitting on the edge of your bed that day, to is there a fear that comes along with sharing some of this stuff? Like,
no, not anymore.
Because I don't think a lot of people have that openness.
I think I'm just more aware of who I'm sharing it with, because like we talked about, not everybody's ready to hear it. So if I say something crazy spiritual, or just like I start talking about like how to transmute vibration to manifest the things you want in your life, and that person doesn't even know, like,
you lost me there, but I'm interested.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like you do stuff like this with people that aren't ready to talk about it, then they're not gonna get the lesson. They're gonna think you're crazy. The next time you talk to them, they're gonna be like, who is this wacko?
Right.
So to me, it's more about just reading something we all know, like reading the room, reading the person, understanding where they're at energetically, where in their life. And I just ask questions. I tend to just ask questions about them. I want to know them first. And maybe that gifts an opportunity to me to provide a suggestion. And that's the way I serve. I will give you a suggestion, because we all maintain choice. That choice is what is going to lead you towards wherever you want to go. And so like I try and meet people on the path that they're at and provide them a new choice. And a gift that I have is, if I can see anybody, that the questions I will ask, most oftentimes I try and get past small talk really quickly and ask a question that allows somebody to demonstrate to me their authenticity in any way. And if I can even barely get a glimpse of that, I can track your potential.
What does one of those questions look like? Like how?
It's just like, like, oh, what do you do for a living? What do you do this? What do you do that? And I may at some point, after I hear all your little nuancy things that people identify with, I may be like, okay, like, well, what do you dream of? What's something you really want to do in your life?
An uppercut.
Yeah. What do you dream? What's a dream of yours? Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? And then they go, oh, and then even just that like slight, like, no one's ever asked me this question. I can't wait to talk about this.
Right. Or how many people have never thought about it?
There's a lot.
Right.
Very much so.
I mean, you hit me with an uppercut on that last episode virtually. It was like when you started talking about like, well, I want to know Bobby. I want to know what he's into and what his life aspirations are. And I was like, fuck, I was just here having a good time. Like, I'm not ready for this. Because you want to have the perfect answer to that, right?
Yeah.
Like you want to have the perfect answer,
yeah.
but to figure out the perfect answer, you have to think about it.
Yeah.
You know, like there's.
I mean, you just like, what lights you up? Like, what makes you excited? Like, oh, fucking fishing. Okay, tell me about fishing. Like, what about fishing that makes you stoked? I'm like, oh, okay. Have you ever thought about this? You ever thought about that? And to me, I'm providing suggestions for that person to make choices to follow the things they're passionate about. Because the things that are created out of the passion that you have, dude, the amount of success that comes from that.
So much more.
Dude,
I think that's the only reason I've had any success for this is I genuinely care about it.
Yeah, there you go.
I do. I enjoy.
Yeah, you're good at it too.
I enjoy hanging out with people like you, that can talk on a spiritual level, or just a more open, honest level. And I've tried to keep it that way. Like, I don't care how big your platform is. I don't care how big your Instagram is. None of that matters to me.
Yeah.
What matters to me is the person sitting across from me.
There you go.
And
the connection.
Yeah, the connection. 100%.
Yep, that's what's up. That's it.
Dude.
Nailed it.
Thanks, Ben. I love you, brother, man. Like, do you want to keep going? Like, what do you want to do? You want to make this the longest podcast?
Let's go. Let's fucking grab me another beer.
All right. Jeremy, you got time? All right.
Jeremy's the man.
Jeremy's the fucking man.
Thanks, brother.
Jeremy's my ride or die.
Everybody needs a Jeremy.
Jeremy makes me a better person, right?
I wouldn't go that far.
No, you do. There's a reason Jeremy stumbled into my life. We met.
Yeah, tell me that. Tell me that shit. Yeah, what's going on there?
Well, it's pretty wild. We were both watchdogs.
What's that mean?
Okay, it's sad that our society has come to this, right? But
okay.
Like, even in our mountain community, and Colorado specifically, like, school shootings are a big fucking deal.
Sensitive,
right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
And no person, I think, in their right state of mind, with any sort of care or love, would want that to happen at any school across the country, right?
No doubt.
Around the world.
Yeah.
Like, children should be
affirmative.
The most protected. Like, I feel like we should have steel walls around every school.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but then at the same time,
protect
you're not letting
future.
any of that natural light in, right? Like, how do you navigate it?
You can't put a wall around this.
Yeah.
No.
I mean,
the whole reason we fucking live here.
Yeah. No
our
doubt.
biggest fear here, literally, is elk or wildlife on a playground. Like, there was didn't we get a call? Or I got a call from. Shout out to Matt Cormier, by the way, too.
The fighter?
I hope.
Is that a fighter too?
No.
No, he's our old school principal. He just
Cormier. I thought that was a fighter name.
No.
It is a fighter. Okay.
Yeah, he is. He's a badass, dude. He could kick some ass for sure. I can guarantee.
What is this shit?
It's a whiskey smoker.
What?
Like, he just made this for me this
shit.
week. Yeah, it's super cool. Yeah. So
a whiskey. How does this work?
So apparently, you take one of these.
You put it over the glass.
You want to try it? Should we try it? Out?
Sure. Can I use the restroom actually one more time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's take a break.
All right.
Actually, we're gonna have to try it another time.
Okay.
Because I don't have the blowtorch.
Okay. You don't? You don't have one?
No, I don't think so. Yeah. Let's take a break.
Okay. Let me take one more break.
Yeah.
One more break. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Is that the longest one?
Damn.
It might be.
That is a huge elk.
Hang on a second.
Old Tom Klum Sr. over there.
Oh, dude, you want to meet?
What the fuck?
We're back. You want to meet an amazing individual?
Yeah.
He is salt of the earth. Reminds me of my grandfather. And a world-renowned archery coach that's right here in Denver.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, good dude.
On the traditional level. Like, he killed that bull with a traditional bow. Like,
whoa.
Yeah. And his sons are they're just the best fucking
those are
there, man.
Like the guy, like,
shout out to Rocky Mountain Specialty.
Like, people who are doing shit like this and doing stuff like that, like,
it's next level, man.
Mad respect, dude. Like, because they have so much more connection to all this shit.
It's
than
definite passion. Yeah, if you open Spotify, Jeremy, which I think it's already open.
You have it on.
If you go down to the little widgets down there.
So tell me about how you guys are watchdogs.
So we're watchdogs. So was it the school principal that started, or was it a group of dads?
No, I think it was just.
Or is it a Jefferson County thing?
I think it's a Jeffco thing.
Okay, so the county that we live in is the same county that Columbine happened at.
Okay,
right? And I think the backstory, and I may be getting this wrong, I'm pretty sure it was a group of fathers, and one of them might have even had a student that went to Columbine during that. They started a program here with the school to get parents involved
Yeah.
And one of those programs was, or this program was dad specific now, but now that there's moms that do it, but it's primarily dads. And they're kind of there just to keep an eye out on what's going on in the school.
Yeah.
And you can come and go. You have to go through a background check. There's a vetting process.
Okay.
And amazingly, we both passed it.
Yeah. Dude, I've been to the White House, bro. Like, so have you.
Yeah.
What?
So
there's more shit to talk about there, too. What the fuck?
And I feel like this background check, they pulled up more shit. They were like, so tell me about this. And I had to explain it to the principal. You know, I was like in the principal's office. Which is pretty good. That made me feel good, right? Like they're actually going through the process, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So obviously they don't want any criminals or sex
right.
offenders or anything like that in there, right?
Yeah.
Which legally they can't be around a school anyways.
Totally.
But
they're doing their due diligence.
they are doing their due diligence. So you have to get accepted into the program. Then you go and you meet all these other amazing dads like Jeremy. And, you know, and this community is really cool. We're really art driven.
Sure.
Everybody ranges from, you know, firefighters to a lot of people in the outdoor industry, a lot of people that work remote.
Yeah.
You know, some of them are just account executives or whatever, right?
Sure.
Like, and there's nothing wrong with that. But
No, not at all.
they all share a common interest for living in a mountain community.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's kind of what you get in these small mountain towns. And you kind of know this, right?
Definitely
like
know
growing
that,
up in a smaller town.
Yeah.
Garden Valley?
Garden Valley.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
GB.
Shout out.
Shout out GB. All 0 people that live there.
Yeah. So one of the responsibilities at the school is being there when the kids are exiting and entering the school. So in the morning, at night is when they want the biggest presents. And then the second thing is just going around and making sure all the doors are locked. Like lock the classroom doors. Sometimes it's kind of policing the other teachers, like the gym teacher. Oh shit! I probably shouldn't say it. Oh, she doesn't listen anyways. Would leave like the back door propped open. It was like, no, to make this secure, we want all the doors locked. So nobody could go into the school.
Yeah.
Unless they go into the front of the school where there's 7 barriers of entry or something, right? So there's 7 sets of doors basically that an active shooter would have to make it through.
Yeah.
To get into any sort of classrooms,
anywhere
where the kids are at.
Yeah,
so it's a really well thought out process to where they remodeled the school. I don't know if it's 7. It might be 5. Can't remember. It's like 5 sets of doors.
Yeah,
there's double doors in the front. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
But they're taking that extra step, right, for that. And then they're encouraged, like the watchdogs are also encouraged to like, hey, talk to the kids, you know? Like you're not there as like security fucking like, it's more of kind of a good thing. So a good time thing, you know, to where the dads would be like, or the head of the watchdogs would be like, yo, there's a mandatory watchdog meeting tonight at the Little Bear Lounge at, you know, 9:45 and it's going to go till midnight.
Yeah.
Right?
It's so funny.
We're going to have live music and
tell me you guys had watchdog t-shirts, dude.
I think
on,
I never had one.
No, they made them. But,
they did make them.
Yeah, they didn't know.
They did make us wear like high vis and stuff because they wanted to.
Well, make sure that you're not some
you're holding a presence.
Yeah,
for sure. That makes
you're
sense.
not just some rando cruising around the perimeter.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
And then we actually had the school go on.
So this is how you guys met each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I met Jeremy and we started bullshitting. And
what year? When was this?
God, my
like
kids
5
were.
years ago.
Your kids were in kindergarten, right?
Yeah.
So 5-ish years ago.
Yeah, something like
It was
that.
like 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
But it was funny because.
Yeah, you tell the story, Jeremy.
Well, no, because but neither of us know how to tell people what we did in real life, like for a job, because it doesn't sound like it's not. Well, it's easier for him because he does concerts. I do corporate.
Oh,
but like,
okay.
He just kind of said, "Oh, I'm kind of a roadie," and I immediately was like, "Holy shit, no way." That's what I am. And then we just
I kind of gravitate
totally
towards the dads that have
hit it right-
tattoos
hit it right
or like,
off.
you know what I mean?
Your
It's
people.
like, yeah, your people. Yeah.
yeah, just a slight edge, and then I was just like, "Holy shit, dude, me too." And then that was it. And then he worked for a company that I know. We probably know a lot of the same people. And then
Yeah,
I'm
tight.
like around in a community of 9,000 people.
Uh-huh.
I bump into another mook like me, And I'm like, this is incredible. And then that was it.
That's dope.
And then, and then everything started crashing when our industry shut down.
Oh,
COVID
and then,
started crashing.
COVID
and then
fucked shit up.
he called me up one day and he's like, hey, this is Bobby, blah, blah, blah. I want to talk to you about something. If you could come down to this place that I rented out. I'm like, what the fuck
Was it
is
this place?
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck is this guy?
Well, it
talking
was
about?
next door.
It was next door.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right.
It was the closet.
Oh,
I
okay,
was
that's
like,
right.
what's
That's
this
right.
guy even talking about? Like we knew each other on the playground. But I come
Literally.
down and he's like, you seem pretty cool. And he's like, I'm doing this thing. And I'm like, what the fuck? This is wild.
Yeah.
And that was
That's awesome, man.
Three and a half years ago.
That's
So it was
super
pretty
cool.
awesome, man.
Yeah. Pretty awesome. It's been awesome having Jeremy in my corner because like we've had moments where we've had guests coming in and I'm like, how the fuck do I talk to a 2-star general?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
that runs
Bobby, how the fuck do you
entire-
talk to a 2-star general?
No, Jeremy's awesome. He's just like, well, just let's ask him about aliens and the Osama bin Laden raid and like, let's just go full on.
So Jeremy, like, question for you, if I'm sure this is fine. So what's it like? What's this like been for you? Like Bobby's telling me how it's helped him and stuff, but like, how has it been for you being a part of this?
It's like having awesome tickets.
Yeah, sure.
To something,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not the guy talking, but it's cool getting.
We've done some cool stuff too. We've traveled a little bit with the
Yeah.
show, and like we've gotten to do.
But it's like
We've built a friendship in here, like more so than when
100%.
we first met each other. For
100%.
sure,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you would think so.
But also,
sure.
just like I live 5 minutes from here.
Yeah.
4 minutes from here.
Yeah.
And this kind of a venue with this kind of people that just pop in here, and you get to meet and engage with the different caliber of people than you do throughout your normal day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like free tickets to an awesome show.
Sure.
It's pretty cool.
It's so
Thanks,
cool,
man.
man. The podcasting, dude. Like, you should start putting a candle right here.
Yeah.
Because this is like the new age fire talk, like around
It
the
really
campfire.
is, yeah.
You know what I mean? Just it could be a cool way to like have a ceremonial experience.
We should how about we record our next one around a campfire?
bro.
Dude,
That would be dope.
This is the mountainside, dude. We recorded one during COVID in a park.
We need to do that.
So we have
Thinking back at that, it's
that's
so
a great-
funny.
that's
dude.
a great
like
idea.
under an
That was
easy up
hilarious.
tent.
It's just this constant.
I'm like, why don't people pick up their dog shit? I'm asking like the park ranger, dude. Like, we were gonna change the world, man.
Oh my
shit.
god, dude, that was really
Campfire
fun.
would be dope though. The little crackle in the background.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
let's do it.
That's what's
Let's
up.
do
But
it.
we should totally do that.
Yeah, I want to do some more. Donnie wants to record one with me in a cave that we've yet to do, but
Man,
he goes and lives in a cave for like.
I got to meet this motherfucker. Donnie, let's do it, buddy.
Let's call him tonight as soon as we
Man
get off
alive.
this. Let's call
Yeah.
him
Yeah.
and let's just see what he's doing. Maybe we'll go to dinner or something.
I'll
Is
love
there a
that.
fire happening right now that you need to get back to?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
No.
No, I told everybody at work I'd be home maybe Tuesday.
Nice.
Who knows?
How has that been? I mean, are you still at the superintendent role? And
Yeah,
all
yeah.
That sort of stuff.
So for
Like-
the listeners, I run what's called a Hotshot crew. I'm the superintendent of what's called a Hotshot crew, the Eldorado Hotshots to be specific. I mean, if you guys look at my Instagram, I'm done. I used to hide that fact, but it's so easy to figure it out nowadays. It's just pointless for me to do it. So, yes, I still run that crew, but my tenure there is coming to an end pretty close. Like it's just like I said, I've been doing it for 23 years, and I have a lot of other interests that I'm like being called to do, specifically like leadership consulting, podcasting at some point, writing a book, and then running retreats for healing work for people. So all those things in the background are taking place. And the fire world is a great world, don't get me wrong. I work for a federal land management agency, and it doesn't take much guessing to figure out what it feels like to work for a federal agency, especially in this climate. So it's challenge. It has a lot of challenges. Like we don't make a ton of money. You know what I mean? Like I make, my base salary paycheck, don't get me wrong, I'm very grateful. I don't want to sound ungrateful while I'm saying this, but like my base paycheck is less than $60,000 a month. So like, and I live in California where gas is $6 a gallon right now.
A year. You mean?
Yeah, what'd I say?
You said
a year.
month, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I was like, damn.
Thank you. Sorry.
Sign me up.
I meant a year.
Where's my shovel?
A year.
Yeah.
A year.
No, that's fucking ridiculous, man. And like,
A year.
I've been a big advocate after talking
definitely.
to, like, shout out to Brandon at Anchor Point.
He's the man.
He's actually who connected us.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe we'll do one with him around the campfire. That would be kind of cool.
Oh, that'd be
rad.
That'd be pretty fun.
But yeah, this is something like the little platform that I have. I do want to create some change. I do want people to have a connection with nature. I want them to appreciate nature a little bit more. But also I'm a huge advocate in people of service.
Sure.
Whether it's on a personal level or a grand scheme of thing, like our former military members or even active,
sure,
I think
totally.
First responders in general.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that somebody that totally gets shit on and swept under the rug more than any other degree of service is wildland firefighters. They are totally disregarded in any sort of... I know it's being brought to light more now than ever, but I think that it's just... You guys weren't even classified as firefighters
Still
at
aren't.
one point, right?
Still aren't. I'm a forestry technician.
Forestry technician, yeah.
Yeah. Which keeps us, which may sound ridiculous, but at the end of the day, what that has done has kept us away from getting legitimate coverage for things like mental health.
Isn't it crazy that a title is driven by like how
concepts,
much money
man.
you make?
Oh my God,
it's like if you're an account executive, you might be titled that just because you need to make X amount of salary, right? But same with, insurance companies and naming winter storms now. That's why there's Winter Storm
Sally.
Bomb cyclone, right? Like, come on. We never had a bomb cyclone. It was a fucking blizzard when I was a kid. Yeah, thunder snow. Like,
I definitely know what you mean.
Yeah.
Has there been recruitment issues?
Yeah, I mean, man, first off, like, I just want to say this. My job is dope. Super dope.
I think it's rad.
I get to go.
It's a job I would want to do.
I get to work in nature, be connected to nature. Like, I was raised to be a steward of the land, right? To like have a connection with the land. Even as a kid, like I don't hunt very much anymore, but I grew up hunting. Like I just stopped at some point for some weird reason. And I took a job that kept me outdoors, and we travel. We're a national resource. So I fight fire, or I'm in nature all over the United States, from Alaska to Minnesota to Florida to the Western United States. We come to Colorado all the time, Montana, Arizona, California, all over. And we go to some of the most Hotshots go to some of the most remote places in the United States, and it is. I can't even begin to tell you how grateful I am for that. Like, to be sitting on a mountain in Alaska and like off the Stewart Highway, like really far off it, but around there in southern Alaska, south of Anchorage, up on this like peak, this like side of a slope, and just like sitting there looking over this bay and just recognizing how small you are. Yes. And you're just like, man, I'm so. I gotta
talk to you about something off mic. My experience, yeah.
Yeah, it's like I'm so insignificant, but yet I'm so a part of this, and like just how special those moments are, like being in the middle, or even a different part of Alaska, being dropped in like northern Fairbanks area in the flat where there's nothing. There's not people. The only thing close to you is moose and grizzly bears. Yeah, exactly.
It's like oil territory, is it?
Past that.
It.
There ain't shit around you, man. There is nobody. The only way you get in is by helicopter and boat. And so it's just like you're just remote, like way like north past the Yukon River, past the Continental Divide, or not the Continental Divide, but the
Arctic Circle.
Arctic Circle, yeah. Thank you. And so like and you just get to think like, man, I wonder if any human has stood in this spot.
Right.
Like maybe I'm the only human that's stood here. Like those moments I live for. Oh,
It's awesome. That gig is so rock and roll though too. You know, like I love high intensity, high. Like that's why I had a passion for metal music and working on those shows. Or even like when I was out with Lil Wayne, we would start the show with 7 concussion grenades, which was kind of my suggestion. Like,
yeah.
And I would purposely sit there and try not to flinch during those, like, because it makes you fucking wake up, dude. Like, you are alive. And
how did that work for the crowd?
I do not want to meet the person that can sit through 7 of those without flinching.
Oh, bro.
Yeah. That's a special operator right there.
Just like, a weird random story. Like the first time I shot my buddy or my brother, it was like a Black Friday sale or something. And he's just like, hey man, I'm going to go, they're selling all these M1 Grands at like Big 5 or something. And he's like, for super cheap. And I was like, dude, sick. Like you should go get one of those. So he stood in line at this Big 5 to get this M1 Grand for like 24 hours.
What is an M1 Grand? Is it like
it's
a high caliber?
Yeah, it's
rifle?
like what they used in like World War II and stuff, like a
30-06
.6 round. I'm pretty sure I might be fucking this up. Wood stock, you know, just like super old school.
Kick your ass, dude.
Like these, he's buying a World War II.
Wars right there.
Yeah.
He's buying, you know, it's like bam, 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 cling. Like that's what when the magazine pops, like old school shit. And you know, he's buying a gun that probably took some lives. So like, there's some like things in there.
So it's like a repurposed.
Yep. And so they're
so
selling
cool.
all these things from an armory somewhere. And so he goes to go get this thing and he gets one. And so he brings it to my dad's house and we have this, and my dad has a lot of property and we're like, all right, let's shoot this damn thing. And then we shoot it and it's just like so fucking loud, dude. Just like, whoa, wham, whoa, wham. I'm just like immediately taken to a spot. Like, could you imagine sitting in a trench with somebody where like 15 of these things are just like blap, 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 cling, like crazy.
So crazy.
Yeah.
Saving Private Ryan is one of my favorite films of all time, just for like the visceral, like you can really put yourself in that moment.
That was like the first movie that made you feel that way, right?
Yeah.
About war, I think, for me anyways.
Yeah. Dude, that's so crazy. That's what I think about, like when I find an arrowhead or something on the ground, like I pick it up and I'm like, A, who was the last person to touch this? What did it do? Did this take somebody's life? Did it provide game? Was it just dropped?
Sure.
Or was it like, oh, this one sucks? Oh no. Dude, what an asshole. Okay.
All right, moving on. That's one of those things that just happens.
Well, now I got a story to tell Donnie.
He'll bring some sap with him. And
He'll fix it.
He will fix it.
I know a guy. So yeah, you know, I think that, where was I going? Oh, my buddy Beto owns Half Face Blades. Got into because
is that yeah, where's
super cool blade company.
Do they have like Native American as their logo? Yeah.
This is actually the logo right here.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right, sweet.
Yeah, I own a bunch of his knives and
cool
and stuff, and he's an awesome individual. But he started a collection because of that with some of his means. I forget the name of the website that he goes on. It's something. It's like an artist website.
Okay.
But they auction off like periods type stuff. So he has some tomahawks.
Oh, dude.
They're made out of steel, like peace pipe tomahawks from like 1700, 50, something like that, 1750. So like right before the Revolution.
Yeah.
And it has like engraved on it, like notches on the handles.
Whoa,
it's got burn marks from them smoking out of it. It has Liberty with a heart, like etched in one part of the blade, and
so
you can
cool.
tell it's like hand. It's so badass.
Yeah, man.
Go to Half Face Blades, Jeremy. See if he's got a photo of it. I know that they made like
sure
a
I follow
flag of it,
dude, on Instagram
or something.
He makes some dope shit.
Yeah, he's a good dude too, man. Good person, good people.
Half Face Blades, yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, like just like picking up something like that's period, is fucking incredible.
Does he have that on a separate?
I don't know. It was actually on episode 100 we did with him. We went to San Diego and recorded at Half Face Blades, and we did a blade giveaway.
Is that where he's from? Is San Diego?
He's actually a Northern Cal kid.
Oh, really?
He lost his dad and two brothers when he was 7 years old in a plane crash in Alaska.
That's the logo I was looking at. Yeah, the half. Oh yeah. Okay, I see it now. Yep. I was upside down. I was like, okay.
Yeah. And
wow,
and
that's
then
crazy.
later went on to the SEAL teams and had a pretty extensive career at a high level. And
how did he get into knife making, I guess, or blade making, or metalwork?
I think it was kind of he needed something to do post-military.
Yeah,
and I think it was always kind of a passion of his. Like, he wanted to make better tools for deploying. And from a kid, he grew up very similar to you and me in the outdoors, like throwing sticks. And
did he, does he do the whole piece?
They do everything. Yeah.
No
They're
shit.
making hundreds of knives a week now.
Wow.
Like, it's
That's
pretty
super
incredible.
Cool.
And he employs 30 or 40 people now that are all, some of them are veterans, some of them are ex-pro skaters. Like, it's just a good group. It's been a way for him, I think, and he spoke about this. I'm not speaking for him on some of the episodes. We've recorded 2 episodes with him.
Yeah.
Leaving the high level SEAL team or that special operations community, you have all this camaraderie and you have a team around you and you are doing everything together in and outside of work. You're going to the bar, you're going, and I would imagine firefighting or being a hotshot is very similar, right? Because you're on the road. So it's like, hey, when we go eat dinner, we go eat together. When we go, not all the time, but 90% of the time, right? And you face some serious adversity with these sort of people, right, too, right? And I think that builds a bond. And I know that we talked about that in the last, and you really get to see what somebody is, their true characteristic when they're put under the highest amount of pressure. And I don't believe that there's anything higher than probably being in combat, and being in a firefight or something like that. Like some of these guys have told me stories of guys just like totally checking out and having all this training and all this shit to fall back. And they literally were so scared they wouldn't leave the base, right? Like,
I mean, dude, nail in the head.
With good reason, right? Like, not everybody's cut out for it, even if they make it through BUD/S training, right?
Totally,
like,
dude.
This happens, or shell shock, or whatever, right?
100%.
Like, it happens in hunting. Like, when a giant bull comes in, I'm not going to lie, dude. Like, when you bugle one in, the knees are knocking, dude. Like, there's no, like, but I've taken the training, I've taken the extra steps through, like, Tom Clum and learning a shot sequence and actually having a mantra behind it and using your
purpose,
your subconscious mind. He teaches that, like,
purpose, intuition, intention.
Yeah, intention. And it's actually, believe it or not, it's a surprise element. So like a trigger press, right? Like, you don't want to know when the gun's going to go off because then you're going to flinch. Like, it has to be a surprise or you'll screw up your shot.
Yeah. So
it's like kind of that sniper mentality.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Well, diamonds are made with pressure.
Yeah.
And and I agree with everything you just said. Like, even to an extent where someone comes up to me and is like, hey, I got this dude that wants to be on your crew. Like, he's super awesome. He's super physically fit. I'm like, sweet, dude. Like,
doesn't matter.
That's one step.
Yeah.
Like cool, he's working or she's working towards that, but like, we'll wait till we put him in a really challenging situation. Like that, because that's when you understand someone's true character. Like, straight up.
Yeah.
Like, when someone is in the most stressful situation, are they giving up? Are they complaining?
That's why I urge anybody to get, some sort of, especially if you live in the outdoors and want to experience the outdoors, even if you're just camping or just to protect your family, get a little bit of education in first aid, like at least a CPR,
Totally.
At least to stop the bleed.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be that person, like, just on the phone with 911, right? Like, that does nothing. I mean, it helps. But if you're dispersed like we are, like, a lot of the fire department up here is volunteer based, right? Because we don't have the infrastructure. We're an unincorporated part. We're an unincorporated mountain town inside of a huge county, right? We pay less in taxes, but
sure,
we don't have the infrastructure that you had. So a response time
No doubt.
is probably double, right? Because
Yeah.
they got to drive to the
In a
fire
place where
station.
people are remote all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's gotten, obviously it's had to grow. There's a lot of homes here, and I'm not saying like it's all like that now, I think. But when I grew up as a kid, it was like,
Sure.
you know, a lot of homes burned to the ground before the fire department. And you also don't have the infrastructure of fire hydrants or
Sure.
so they're showing up in a pumper truck or something like that,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
But we've had some paramedics on and stuff too that work at a high level, like SWAT medics and stuff, and that work as actual helicopter medics, like flight transport, critical care
Yeah. flight
transport. And he said straight out that I'm pretty sure it was 100% of the calls that he went on for cardiac arrest where CPR wasn't started,
Nothing.
they didn't make it. So just having that little bit, right? It takes nothing to
Yeah.
go get a CPR. But anyways, to bring it back full circle, I'm all over the fucking place.
We are.
We are. Beto, you know, working in that high level and that sort of thing. And to bring it back, I think he kind of built this business around having his boys around him. And he's got just this badass team of just
man,
awesome
that's what's
individuals of
Man, I respect that. Like
character and
there's
stuff,
so
man.
many I think that's something that's I've been like kind of like cluing in on a lot lately. Is like these
tribe.
There's the tribe, but for some reason you hear about how like you got Jocko, you got your boy doing knives, you got like the Sean Ryan show, like you got these Navy, a lot of Navy, that was like, whatever. I just said like some popular dudes, but like I know a lot of Navy SEALs as well also, and or like special operations military people. And once they got out of the military, they fucking went to work, dude.
Yeah.
And they like a lot of them did. And they like
different
built
type of
some
drive.
dope shit. Like I'm just like, God damn, like they're giving back. They're trying to like, you know, they're still serving, like because it's a part of who they are. I'm like, there's something super inspirational about that. And to me, like, I find a lot of inspiration in that because that's what I want to do too.
Sure.
It's like, man, it's not so much about like being you know, I can tell you the definition of what I think a warrior is, but like, it's not so much about being a savage in the battlefield. It's about just being a fucking servant.
Sure.
And so like,
I hold you guys
yeah,
or hotshots or smoke jumpers or police officers. I don't think that because you were a Navy SEAL, you're any better than the local patrol police officer.
And
That
they don't
is
think that
still
either.
A point of service.
Yeah,
right?
for
And
sure.
Yeah. And I think that the one reason personally why I like having somebody sit across from me that has been part of a hotshot crew or part of a Navy SEAL team, platoon, former Green Beret, paramedic is like, you guys are exposed to so much in life that I think you guys have a different understanding of valued time, and you hold a higher value to friendship and or love in a different way, but also at the same time you're very loving to yourself because you hold your values are important to you as an individual, and those mixed with time creates truth and transparency where like if I were to say something that you didn't agree with as a friend, you should be able to say, I don't agree with that and not worry about what I think.
yes.
And we're just having a conversation.
yeah, sharing
And
perspective.
I think in that community or in those sort of communities or those sort of high level stress jobs, and I'm not comparing rock and roll roadies to it, but that's how I came up.
Sure.
It's very similar. Like it's high stress, like
Stress is
everybody's up
stress.
your ass. Like it's,
Your body doesn't give a fuck about what's causing the stress.
we don't have bullets flying over our head. We don't have,
Well, the only difference between the difference between like the first responder world, you know, like I'm kind of lumping in military into that category. And the only, like, just listening to you say that, I think the only potential difference is we potentially understand how fragile life is very quickly.
Yeah.
And I think that's just, I think to me, like, that's kind of like just what happens is like, it's not to say that you don't value life. Of course you do. But like, it's just that it comes from like knowing to understanding again, right? We all know that life is the single, for me, my number one value is to value life over all else. That is it. That's not yours, not mine. It's the thing we all share together, right? That's my number one value. So in the first responder world, like, you just understand how fleeting like a human life can be. And that value becomes so apparent. You're like, wow, like, I need to do whatever I can to encourage the existence of individual experience in life to continue. And however I can support that for somebody that's my mission. Like, that's what it is. And it doesn't matter whether or not I'm doing it as a firefighter. And that's what I'm saying. Like, these SEALs get out, they continue to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's making something creative with knives, but he's employing homies from the military to continue to give them purpose.
100%.
I would imagine.
And there's like a culture there, you know. It's almost, it is like a little tribe. I mean,
totally, and that's important.
Fucking awesome people.
And
too.
a tribe is important. Like, we talk about a lot of times. Sometimes we say tribalism is like this negative context to it. I'm just like, man, like, tribe is important. It's not about like. It's not about.
That's why they make it negative,
right?
Because
yeah,
it's so positive.
It is a positive thing.
It really is.
Yeah,
it's so effective. It's the most effective thing.
If you want to think about how it's
into
structured, and I've broken this down, I don't mean to.
No, please send it
right here.
No, do it.
But I don't want to forget this.
Yeah,
like that tribal mentality, and Sebastian Younger's book kind of opened this
beautiful
ideals
book
to me a little bit, or the concept of tribe. I think is really well broken down. But I've done a deeper dive on it just because my infatuation with native cultures, and like that's part of the aspect that intrigues me is like, how do I build community, and how do I know that people genuinely are sharing what I'm sharing with them, right? Like, I think that's important, that we're on an even playing field when it comes to emotions and everything else, even though there might be a hierarchy in the tribe. But what the tribe exploited was, and if you want to take this into a modern day concept of a way to govern people and money and everything else, because money wasn't really a concern. Like, there was different currencies, right? Like, maybe it was this obsidian rock was carried across the country, so it had some value, right?
100%.
Then you start employing guns and gunpowder and bullets, and like then
turns to paper at some point.
And then it's crazy, right? Buffalo hides become a currency, right? A buckskin, like it's named that because it used to cost $1, I think, or something like that. Oh wow!
Heck?
Damn.
Must
be some.
This conversation's getting deep right now, dude.
How did I do that? That's
Damn, some
Led Zeppelin coming in.
Fuck yeah, let's go, dude. Let's get. I think that was an omen to end up. We've definitely beat the record.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Shit.
We're well beyond 3 hours now.
Okay.
We're 3:12.
Okay. So diving into that, maybe not with our breaks. But so we're going to keep going here. But the tribal concept, when you really break it down, is like, what are you good at and what do you enjoy doing? So, you know, and having some conversations with some other people has helped me realize this, you know, like if you are happy just petting the horses, feeding them, cleaning up after them, if those animals like a dog or somebody gives you joy, maybe that was your job because you were happy doing it.
Yeah.
You were good at it.
Yeah.
And you genuinely cared about it. If you want to take it a step further, if you're the shaman, you know, that's a different level of trying to.
What do you think about, well, let me ask you this question. What do you think about like the recognizing that someone is into, let's say, like use the horse example, like this is what brings them joy. What do you think about like within a tribe pushing that individual to do something else? Like to like expand their being into like maybe a potential they may have. that they may be fearing? Is that part of a tribe too? Like inspiring someone to like pursue something better?
I think that there was demands, right? Because obviously if you're under war, everybody's going to war.
Sure.
Like there's only so many people in the tribe, right?
Yeah, sure.
And I think that when it comes to like food and providing for the tribe, like I think that that's mandatory. I think everybody should have to contribute.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
No matter what your
there's
no
certain
matter what your
necessities that just
level
have
of
to
skill
happen.
is, right?
Right,
like
right,
so
right.
maybe you're not the hunter or the warrior,
Yeah.
but maybe you are the one that has to sew the scalps on the back of the headdress or whatever it
I hear
is,
what you're
right?
saying, yeah.
Like maybe that's your
Yeah.
maybe you're the clothes maker. Maybe you have to make the breastplates for the warriors, you know? Maybe
You're chipping.
and that's to bring it back to the military or the level of service or whether you're a husband or a wife or you're the provider of the family, like it's all a level of service or servitude, right? Like
your existence.
whether you're a cook in the Navy or not.
Oh, yeah.
Or
And we also talk about this on the crew, right? Because that's like the crew is like the Hotshot crew is like a small tribe, right? It's like 20 to 25 people. One of the first things I tell everybody is like, okay, it's actually written in our standard operation guidelines or SOGs. Is like, okay, this tribe here that we have, this community, this family, really when it comes down to it, this family that we have, there's a communal wood pile. Now you can either take wood and do what you got to do, or you can take wood and give more back. And to me, and that was actually gifted to the crew by another crew member because he was really into like Native American culture and stuff too. And he was in prison. Everything was taken from him at some point because he was into drugs and shit. And then he came to the crew once he healed all that shit and had this beautiful perspective about like this community that we have, this job, this family that we have is about giving back. It's not about taking from the communal woodpile because everything that you take is taking away from everybody else in the community, everybody else in the family. So I'm like, to me, like a lot about being in a tribe is that philosophy. It's like we're not only doing something together to reach a goal or an objective to survive or whatever it is.
you have a common interest.
There's a common interest to make everybody better. And to me, that's like kind of where that question came from. It's like, do you think that there's a way, do you think there's also being a part of tribe where we're inspiring each other to be
I
better?
absolutely think so, man. Like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't there be? Like, the stone tool was an invention or a human creation.
Sure.
Fire,
Yeah.
you know, whether
Yeah.
it was first discovered from a lightning strike, but we figured out how to recreate it and
Yeah.
harness it
Yeah.
to the point where tribes took it so sacred that they had the same fire going and they thought it was there to keep their ancestors alive. The fire never went out. There was people that were some of the most sacred leaders in the tribe.
Yeah.
Their job was to watch the fire. But also, what did they do when they left? Because they were nomadic people and were following a food source, they also understood that fire breeded new life, right? It gave back. So they would back burn
Yeah.
wherever they left. And they even had these what we would call today an ultra marathon runner.
Yeah.
They were fire runners.
Yeah.
Were like the youngest, fittest, baddest ass warriors in the tribe. And their sole mission was to carry this fire.
Right.
So they would take an aspen conch, pull it out, and, you know, those burn for fucking, I don't know, 24 hours or something, and pack it into some sort of bison horn that was lined with clay so they could keep the fire burning and run 50 or 60 miles with
That's so
guaranteeing
crazy,
it wouldn't
dude.
go out.
That's so wild.
Then they would restart the fire, right?
I got to tell you a story after
where
this.
they were camped.
Yeah.
And this is where smoke signals came from, apparently.
Yeah.
They would send smoke signals, and the rest of the tribe would migrate to wherever they were, 50 or 60
That's
miles
crazy.
away. And they would set up a new camp. Hey, there's food here. Sometimes it was a leapfrog, right? So they had multiple fire runners that were just
That's
scouting
so cool.
the area. It's so cool, man. It's crazy,
Especially up in here in
concept.
like the rugged terrain, you know, like the elevation.
So badass.
So we were just on a fire on the Klamath National Forest, which is super northern California, near the Oregon border. And oftentimes when we get into country like that where it's super remote, there's a lot of Native American like reservations, things of this nature. And when we fight fire in those areas, we have to be in conjunction and working with the native tribes in that area. And the native tribe that's in that area and the place that we were working in called Happy Camp is the Karuk tribe. And so
I'm sorry, where is this at again?
it's called the Klamath is the national forest. The area, the town, or this very small town that we were in, the tribe that we were working with is the Karuk, and it was in a place called Happy Camp.
Is this in a state in the United States?
In Northern California.
Oh,
like
okay.
right near the Oregon-California border. It's like separated
Beautiful
by a ridge.
country, man. Holy shit.
Really,
yeah.
really tall mountains. Lower elevation, like the peaks are only, I don't even know if they have a 6,000 foot peak. Probably like 4,000 or 5,000 feet peaks or whatever, but just canyons, deep river cut canyons, steeper and shit, tons of poison oak. So there you go. Yeah. So you can see the Klamath, where we got Etna. So yeah. So it's right off the I-5 right there up north past Wairika. So like then you got Highway 96 right there. You see Wairika?
Yep.
So 96 takes you back. You got Horse Creek, Sayad Valley, Happy Camp. So we're up in this Happy Camp area. And it's these giant river cuts. So you got the Klamath River that runs through there, and it still has salmon runs.
Really?
Yeah, so it's like this
badass,
super, super really dope spot, and it's all native reservation places, and they're one of the Karuk tribe specifically is one of the only tribes in California when settlers were coming west that didn't lose a lot of their traditions, because as they were coming west, they were gathering up all the Native American tribes and putting them into honestly, like concentration camps. Yeah. And so they're sending them over to Hoopa, which is, you follow the 96, Orleans, kind of in this general area, the Orleans Six Rivers National Forest area. There's a place called Hoopa. There's a giant valley right there. So they're floating these rivers. So that road, the 96 road, follows the Klamath River the whole time. So they're gathering up all these Native Americans, putting them in boats and whatever, and bringing them down into Orleans, the Hoopa Valley, and then sticking them in this like concentration camp, basically. And the Karuk tribe was escaping these camps and getting onto the ridgelines and making their way all the way back to Happy Camp before the settlers could come back to Happy Camp, because they're using horseback navigating shit. But so the canyons are so steep. The Karuk tribes up there, the Yurok, Karuk, and Hoopa tribes used ridgelines as their highways to trade, right? So there's so many artifacts and like prayer rocks on these beautiful ridgelines that overlooked. It's so, oh my God, it's powerful. And it's rugged as fuck. So it's like just the amount.
I want to go there.
It's so dope, dude. They got elk in there too. So anyways,
nice.
All this beautiful stuff going on there. And so, when I was a young fireman, I didn't really give a fuck about this. I'm out here fucking fighting fire.
Yeah. How did you learn about it? Just talking with some of these natives?
Yeah. So like really it came down to this last fire. So like obviously my spirituality has been increasing over the years. And this last fire that we went on, I got in contact with some of the tribes members who were like advisors to like how we should fight this fire in these canyons, right? Because they want fire in the landscape. For everything, they go like the fire runners. They want it.
It's advocates of
it's a healthy part of the ecosystem, right? To keep the brush down, for hunting grounds, for watershed, for everything. So they're all about fire. So lightning comes through there. That's typically what starts the fires up in that country. Lightning comes through there, and they want us to kind of like. It depends on what the threat is. I don't want to say something stupid and say they want us to manage it, but they want us to like work with the fire in a way that allows it to benefit the resource on the ground, but also,
well, that's the thing too, isn't it? Like, I don't mean to interrupt you, but like,
that's okay.
Isn't that part of like what's going on now? There's so much fuel,
yes,
that it's burning so hot that it's actually scorching the earth, so shit cannot grow back.
Yes,
like,
well,
this is a
kind of what's happening. Like
the fires are burning hotter than they normally would.
Yes,
if they would have just naturally burned,
so like
right?
God damn, I'm gonna fuck these dates up, but like way back in the day, like early 1900s, they had these really, really large scale fires, like millions of acres, and they were super destructive, like burning down cities, immense loss of life, thousands of people dying, things of this nature. And a lot of it had to do with this is going to get really unpopular here, the logging industry. Just the way the logging industry was managing the land. So they were coming in, we were expanding, we're moving west, we're doing all these things, we're trying to build cities, trying to take resources to support life or whatever. But what they were doing, there was they have to log to build homes and structures, but they were just leaving a ton of slash on the ground without a lot of like management of the forest,
which turns into the hottest fuel you can get.
So they had these giant fires that just were uncontrollable. You couldn't even get people into it because there was so much slash and garbage on the ground, and it just decimated towns, forests, all kinds of stuff. So they came up with this, the government came up with this rule of like, we have this, like, it's like, I can't remember, it's like a 12-hour, I'm going to fuck all this, like 8-hour policy. And it's some sort of weird policy where we had to put the fire out within a certain period of time. So the fire started, everybody was thrown at it. They would hire people from bars and things like this, of this nature, to go put out these fires like right away.
Go to happy hour.
Yeah. Hey, seriously. Who needs to earn $5?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So they would run people out there. And we'd put fires out, and we have been doing that for over 100 years. Wow. Right? So back in the day, and so people say like, oh, well, we need to log more to manage the land. And I'm like, okay, that's just a fucking sliver of the story. Like, the logging industry has now developed tons of very healthy practices on how to take care of the land. Mm-hmm. So they're logging, and then they're planting, they're replanting, or they're managing the land in appropriate ways. But it wasn't like that in the beginning, right? So like, logging is a very small part of the fuels management issue. The bigger issue that I've actually been seeing is the fact that we have developed this, we will put fires out super, super small, and that is removing fire from the environment. Sure. And we are not now appropriately managing the amount of fuels reduction work that needs to take place to prevent catastrophic wildfire. And so, because we have removed wildfire from the ecosystem, and so now there's this huge push from all federal agencies to starting fuels management programs, large scale burn programs, things of this nature, whatever.
They're doing it around here pretty heavily.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
And so, but the Karuk tribe has been doing this forever, and so we manage and work things with them and do all this kind of stuff. So anyway,
they've been doing this since day one.
Oh man,
Fuel
it's a part of their culture, right?
Yeah.
They would send young boys for like their, coming of age, manhood stuff up to ridgelines to start fires to come back down. So anyways, we're on this fire, dude, and it's super crazy, and I'm interacting with the tribe and having these conversations and listening to what they want to say and all this type of stuff. There's not really a lot of threat. We got the lines in. It's all about approval, like give and take type of thing. Like we're having all these really great conversations. And this gentleman named Bo, oh my God, you got to have this guy on your podcast. Actually,
I'm down, dude. Anybody you want to come on here that can have a conversation with you is welcome to sit in
this fucking guy is full power, dude. He's Karuk.
Full power.
He's dope as hell, man. I'll get your I'll get him. I'll hook you up with him. And so he's like he's telling me all about the tribe and the history and what they've done and all this kind of crazy stuff, and he's telling me about their ceremonies and how they maintained all this culture still, and like it's pretty rare. And so anyways, and then there's the fires in this fucked up spot in this like crazy canyon, super steep, poison oak, and there's this thing called tan oak, which is just like, if anybody knows about tan oak, man, it's the worst stuff. It's like this bushy, it's like a bush kind of, but it's got this really crazy waxy leaf, and when you're smashing through the brush on it, it like puts off this powder, and it just makes you like gag. So
really?
So it makes you cough and gag and sneeze, and your fucking throat run, can make you sick. So the fire's backing down to this creek drainage, and we're like, man, we can't get people down there because you can't see the fire. You don't know where it's at. It's just dangerous. But it's been sitting there for a long time, and we couldn't figure out like why. And so I'm like, okay, well, I need to go in there and look. So I got to walk this. I'm asking to walk this like 4 or 5 mile stretch of ground, and just like the most rugged terrain you've ever seen in your life. Super, super steep canyon, overgrown. You're smashing through brush the whole fucking time. poison oak. I don't get poison oak, but poison oak, blackberry bushes, just like this tan oak crap. It's hot. You got face flies just all up in your shit all the time. Just like it's mosquitoes. Like it's just all the crap that I love, actually. I love all that stuff. And so, but the thing is like what I'm asking to do puts me right onto these sacred trails and ground that are like immensely sacred to these tribes. And there's a trail that takes you up this river drainage, this creek drainage, up this ridge line that takes you to this very like ancient, like 200 to 300 old village up on this top of this mountain that we were kind of like protecting while we were up there. And so I'm with this guy, Bo, and I'm like, hey man, like we got to go check this out. Like if I don't go look at this, then we're talking about doing some serious resource damage with dozers and things like this, drawing this huge box around this fire that made triple the size of the fire, you know? And so he's like, okay.
They get equipment like that up there?
Yeah, we can track, like there's roads up in there from the logging industry, so we can track like dozers and stuff, and we'll run them on the ridge lines. But
that's crazy.
Every ridge, every peak has a prayer rock on it. So back in the day, the relationships weren't that great, so they would just like blow dozers over prayer rocks, which is just stupid, right? So we've developed a better relationship, and so we're trying to help them maintain a lot of their culture, which is really, in my opinion, very beautiful. So anyways, the point of this story is I get access to go walk this trail that hasn't been walked in 200 years.
And you're one of the first ones to get beyond it in 200 years? In
200 years, this guy Bo's like, this is the first time a human has walked this trail in 200 years. And I'm like, phew. He's like, here's where I think.
No pressure.
Yeah, here's where we think it is. You know, it's like a 4 to 5 mile-ish walk. You know, you're smashing brush. It took me almost 5 hours to walk it. That's how crazy the ground was. And actually, it was probably like 3.5 miles, and it took me almost 5 hours actually. And he's like, no one's walked this for roughly 200 years, and so we had to say like a prayer, and I had to walk the trail with 60 pounds on my back in the most humid conditions because it gets really humid there, and I couldn't drink water the entire time. It was so wild.
Why couldn't you drink water?
That is just part of the process. Like if you get on these certain sacred trails, you can't
to follow the tradition.
Yep. Wow. I was fully in the spirit world by the time I was done, dude. I was just like dehydrated as shit, cramping, super dizzy as hell. I was like, what
you can have
fuck?
psychedelic experiences without. I mean, if you put yourself in some sort of adversity or a float tank, have you ever done one of those?
Oh yeah.
It's pretty insane.
Ben, what was the going in these remote areas?
What?
I got to pick everybody's brain about this whenever, but in these remote areas where, typically people aren't out camping or hunting or shit like that. Like, what's the weirdest thing you've seen?
The weirdest thing I've seen.
Because there's real crazy shit going on in like Oregon.
The weirdest stuff. I mean, it's not weird because I already know it's there, honestly. But we run into like illegal marijuana grows,
the cartel stuff,
cartel shit all the time.
That's crazy.
The weirdest.
We've had John Norris on too. Are you familiar with him?
No.
Oh, he's awesome. I got to connect you guys.
Okay.
He was part of that the Met team.
Okay.
So they were like combating that, but he's a game warden that just fell into.
I think I've heard about this dude.
Yeah, Brandon actually introduced John to me too, and we had an awesome conversation. I need to catch back up with John. He's an awesome guy. Lives up in northern Montana now, but he was part of the whole National Geographic show. But above and beyond that, like that was the Hollywood side of it, right?
Yeah, sure.
He wrote a book, The Thin Green Line. Can you look that up for me?
He wrote The Thin Green Line?
I think so.
Maybe I'm thinking of something different.
It's an amazing book about. Look up the book. I'm getting it mixed up. Fuck. Why did I say that? Not The Thin Green Line.
I thought that was a really famous movie, but it's probably a book. Anyways, so yeah, it grows. The craziest thing that happened to me.
Hidden War. Sorry, it's Hidden War.
Okay.
Yeah. Check out Hidden War.
Okay, well, the craziest thing that happened to me, though, on a grow, like we come across it all the time, like old stuff or whatever, but I was out scouting a chunk of ground trying to figure out, how to contain this fire. I can't remember what it was, maybe on the Shasta or something. Anyways, I'm cruising around and I drag my foot through some brush and I like catch, and my foot catches. I'm like, oh, what the hell is that? And almost like kind of like trip up a little bit. And I look back and my foot is caught up in a bunch of like string. So like, you know, have you ever seen paracord?
Yeah.
So it's like paracord, but so you can like strip the sheath off and then you can like take like this thinner strands underneath it. So it was like paracord and it was like colored brown, like someone took a Sharpie to it. So it was hidden better or whatever. And it was attached to 2 trees through some like eyelets. And then it came up to a piece of pipe with a shotgun shell in it.
Get the fuck out of here.
Dude, they build
At face level.
dude.
But it was so old that the string like broke. And I was just like, looked, I was like, God damn
Holy
it.
shit. Dude, they take Vietnam tactics
Yeah.
and they build punji pits from the Viet Cong.
Oh yeah.
So they literally dig holes and
Yeah.
they put bamboo spikes in them
Cover them in shit
and
and
cover them
everything,
in
and-
poisons and like fucking.
Dude, I was on another fire. To go further on this, I was on another fire. I was like a younger fireman. I think I just got the squad boss position. I was working on getting my firing boss qual, which gives me the ability to like run firing operations, like backfires and things of this nature. And we're on this. I can't remember the name of the fire, but they're like, hey Ben, like you need to go burn this. This will be your training assignment. I was like, all right, cool. Like, well, let me go bebop around inside where I'm gonna burn just to get an idea of what's in here. And I start walking, and a lot of times what you'll see is like these big pits like dug out, or they're like capturing water, or maybe they did some plants or whatever. And then you start, the tall tale thing that you see when you know it's a grow is like there's just black PVC pipe everywhere, like irrigation pipe. You're like, oh shit, there's whatever, someone grew some shit here. So I'm like walking around, I start seeing irrigation pipe. I see some of these pits. I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm like, whatever, that's not that big of a deal. And I walk over further and I come across this like, I'm like, why is there like all this brush like concentrated right here? What the fuck's going on over here? And I walk over there and there's a tarp. So they cut a bunch of soil out down to like low levels so that they could lay tarp at the same level of the ground. They covered it with brush, and underneath it was like a full on like camp with like hot beans still like boiling a little bit, like all kinds of shit. Like, dude, people are here.
Just dug in.
Dug in.
Crazy. They walk in like carpet and stuff, so you can't see their boot prints. Like, it is fucking wild, dude.
Yeah, it's crazy. So we see that shit all the time though.
It's wild. The laws that are set up are even crazier because even when like John was arresting these people, they would just let them out because there was no criminal.
I know.
It's fucking wild, and it's probably one of the most devastating things to an ecosystem.
Sure.
That can be done, or that is being done within the United States right now.
And a lot of people that they're hiring to do that work aren't cartel. They're just dudes trying to make a living to send their money back to their families.
Yeah, they're just trying to get by.
They're just trying to survive.
Like indentured servants too. Like
yeah.
They're paying off their
debt.
Their trip.
Yeah, that's true too.
For sure.
So,
that's wild.
Anyway,
I want to bring it back to the prayer trail. So, what happened? Anything specific on this? Did you have any sort of like,
there was just one time, like
moments?
I finally hit, like I'm walking up this creek drainage and everything's good. I'm coughing and hacking from the tan oak, and then I finally hit the ridge that brings me up to the spot I'm trying to make it to. And I make it like halfway up, and I'm like, dude, I'm pretty fucked up. Like I'm like hella dehydrated and super dizzy. And I'm just like, all right, well, I'm not allowed to drink. Well, I'm just like, I'm not that far away. I'm maybe a mile away. And the only thing that happened is I heard a weird voice, like a woman's voice, say like, and I could have, dude, I'm telling you, it sounded real as shit. And I was just like, I hear this voice and it sounded like, hey, or something like this. And I was like, I stopped. I was like,
are you by yourself at this point?
yeah, I'm by myself, which is kind of stupid. I should have probably brought somebody with me, but I didn't.
What was it, Bo?
Bo, yeah.
Yeah.
I love you, Bo, but you wouldn't have made it, buddy.
You got a GPS on you.
That's a joke, though. Yeah. Yeah, I got GPS. If I would have gotten fucked up, they would have known where I was at. It would have taken forever to get there. But anyways, I hear this woman's voice like say something. I can't remember. I was like, hey, or like... Anyways, and I sat there and I was like, I stopped. I was like, okay, maybe I'm closer to the destination than I thought I was. Like maybe they're just right above me or something. And I go, hey, back, like, hey, I'm right here. Or I whistle, you know, like we usually whistle at people. And I was like, all right. I just kept walking. And I got to the top. I told Bo that. I was like, dude, what the fuck? I heard this like weird woman's voice down there. He's like, you know, I don't know, man. You're in the spirit world, dude. I was like,
That's
okay.
crazy.
Yeah, it was dope.
Wow, that's awesome. That's pretty cool. You got to, I mean, it's not cool, but it is kind of cool that you got to do that. Like, there's
It's
some spots
totally
here
cool.
I'd love to show you that,
Yeah.
that modern American culture is just totally decimated, but
Yeah.
we know our Indian burial grounds and stuff. I
Sure.
don't know a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's crazy. My family goes like 12 generations deep here.
Here?
Yeah.
Whoa.
So like all those meadows and barns and stuff that you passed on the
No
way down
shit.
here was all part of their
Wow,
like
that's really cool.
ranch
No
back
kidding.
in the day. Yeah. Or
That's really cool.
part of the family.
Mhm.
So I know a little bit about some of the history
Damn.
in and around here that's not publicized, but
Yeah, that's really cool.
yeah, there's some amazing spots right here that are pretty cool like that. Like those sort of like, you can see why it was a prayer rock or something, right? Like,
Totally.
could you tell like when you were at
Oh,
one of those spots, like, cause you're surrounded 360 degrees
God,
and
dude.
you can just,
If people actually open their mind up to like what, like the thing is, it comes down into back into awareness. Like if you actually pay attention to your environment and you know yourself, you can get to places and just know right away that it's sacred.
sure.
You know what I mean? Like you're just like, this is a special spot. Like there's no way I'm the first person to see this. Like there's just no way. When you get on a peak or a ridge or whatever, and you can see 360 degrees around you, and you're like, yeah, this is a special place.
Yeah.
Or you get under, like you come up to a rock and you're like, what? The rock just all of a sudden changes color. Like they have like, you know, there's a lot of granite up there too, and like serpentine, but also just like limestone and stuff. And like limestone is like limestone. You see what limestone looks like. And then you get to this type of limestone that looks like just straight tiger stripes. You're like, whoa, what is going on here? And it's almost like soft, like sandstone. It's like, whoa, this is really strange. Like, oh, this was some sort of like really special place for somebody.
That's awesome.
Or like flats, like you get into these flats and there's just like all this like bare grass and stuff. And you're like, oh, okay. So this is where, you know, the women came up here and they would do, you know, they would make baskets out of this, like straight up. Like they just, dude, their connection to the earth is crazy. Like all the stuff that we just walk by not paying attention to, there was a reason that's there for them. It was an integral part of their life.
That's the cool part of your job, I would imagine.
Oh,
right?
it's
having these sort of
it's so
experiences like that.
So cool.
And there's got to be an element too of like that rock and roll aspect where you guys are going in and it's just walls of fire and you get to drive a truck into that and combat it, or you know, you're going in through air or whatever.
Sure.
Like
that stuff's exciting, you know, like don't get me wrong, like the danger, the riding the razor's edge type of stuff, you know, all that stuff's, I mean, that gets me going for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I've lived my life by that for a long time. But now I'm trying to do things like slightly safer, maybe like mountain biking and backcountry skiing.
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot more at stake than you do when you're a young man. Like I lived a little bit crazier.
Oh yeah,
like,
man.
You know, like definitely. Like going into some of these third world countries and going into like favelas and stuff where people, they don't come out of them.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to go see what it was about. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
do.
eye-opening.
It's eye-opening. Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
It's eye-opening to see how people thrive in that
But would
situation.
I do that as a grown 40-year-old man now with 3 kids? Fucking no way, dude. If I died back then, I didn't really care, you know? It's like, it's kind of that, like...
I died doing what I love.
Yeah.
There really is like some truth to it. It's a young man's game, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it totally is, man.
it's starting to become very
That's
real.
awesome.
Yeah. Now
Okay,
I touch something. I'm like, God, I gotta wash my hands, dude.
So this next chapter, you mentioned the podcast book.
Sure.
Is this going to be post-retirement, or is it kind of...
I think retirement's a joke, personally. I think
No. I mean, from Fire. I think it is too. I get exactly what you're saying. I don't think you should ever stop doing whatever you're doing.
Perfect. Yep, that's how I feel. It is. I'm building this in the background so it gives me an opportunity to leave the agency.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So like, the thing I'm really
good for you to have a plan. I encourage anybody. I think that's one of the biggest things that hits home for somebody that's in a line of service is if they don't have some sort of plan when they get out. And it's just like, everything stops, right?
Yeah. The idea of drinking coffee and smoking weed on your swing of your porch would last
Sounds
about
awesome.
would last about a day for me.
Yeah.
I'd get bored very quickly.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I have to have some point of focus, I guess.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, dude. Well, you always are welcome here. We are.
Did we do it?
Oh yeah, we did it.
Okay.
We're definitely 3.5 hours.
All right,
so
cool. Hell yeah.
This is a definite record breaker.
With the intro, I think we're about to tie, Josh.
Oh, we're about to tie?
Yeah.
No, we beat it by far.
340. I don't know, man.
Yeah. I'm showing 345. It's not about the record.
347. 347's Josh, but that's
all right.
intro and everything.
So, well, we're definitely going to beat it because I'm not done yet. So I was just segueing to that maybe that we should think about stopping. But so I really appreciate you making this trip.
Man,
I feel kind of I have a little bit of regret now that we've gone 3 hours and 45 minutes and I haven't asked you what you want to talk about. We've just talked.
We just did talk about what I want to talk about.
Well, then that's good. Okay, so part of this next step, I know you're helping with some coaching.
Sure.
If people wanted to get a hold of you for anything that you're doing outside of or in the federal agency, like
sure, thank you.
Maybe there's some guys that could use some recruiting advice or something like that.
It's really easy to reach out to me. Instagram is probably the easy way to reach out to me for job opportunities within fire. Even though I'm transitioning on that, I still believe in that work. So if you want to get a hold of me there, just hit me up. It's by far the easiest way to get a hold of me. I think
it's at Ben.
It's at Ben Strahan.
Okay.
Yep.
No underscores or anything.
Just at Ben Strahan.
Yeah.
And as far as like if you're interested in like leadership consulting for whatever organization you're with, Ben at Moment Consulting LLC is the best place to hit me up there. And then the healing work I do in the background with first responders and stuff, we can touch bases there as far as Instagram's going, but there's an organization that I'm working with that is it's just healing work in general, and it's Heal the Heroes. It's and you can find them on Instagram, or it's
we'll put a live link into all this stuff too, like we did last time.
Perfect.
Yeah, so if you're listening to the show right now, what a live link is, if you open the show notes in Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you are taking in this podcast, there's a direct link to any of these websites that we're talking about right now.
Yeah, exactly. So those are like the main ones. And otherwise, man, just super stoked to be here. And I know we'll do more. And that's it.
Absolutely. We'll keep it rocking and rolling. As far as the healing process for some of these first responders and stuff, because I think that's
sure
something that's the most prevalent.
Mm-hmm.
What is kind of the process of getting integrated into that? Is there some sort of application process? Because it's not just like, hey, show up, here's your mushrooms, right? Like we talked about that last time.
It all starts with whether or not you're interested in stuff, and it's not the healing work we're doing is not all just like psilocybin or just plant medicines too. It's other things too. So
important
psychoactive processes as well. So there's a lot of other healing things that we do. So the first step would be is just to reach out and see. Hit me up, Heal the Heroes up, see if this is just a thing that is that interests you, and make sure it's the right fit. We need to know where you're at, what your history is. Do
you have to be a first responder?
No, not at all. No,
really? This
is for everybody.
So general population.
General pop, but we do a lot of hero work, like the idea of Heal the Heroes. Like this isn't my organization, it's somebody else's. I just am an advocate for them and also do a lot of partnership work with them, and I believe in it. So it started with first responder stuff to begin with, but it's more than that because we are the heroes of our own life. Not to sound cliche and silly, but that's what it is. Like, so a hero is you. It's me. It doesn't have to be a first responder. So, but at the end of the day, it all starts with like a introduction of the human and just seeing where people are at, making sure it's the right fit, making sure you're prepared. A lot of times people are in so much suffering that they're just looking for the relief. You know what I mean? This type of work is not for that. You have to start.
It's not instant gratification.
Nope. You need to do the work. You need to be committed to yourself in that healing process and understand yourself to some level before we do things like psychedelics in general. And we'd run retreats out of Mexico where it's.
Is that how it becomes legal? Obviously, it's not legalized in the United States, so you're having to travel out of the country.
A lot of times, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And or just using non-psychoactive things.
Mm-hmm.
It's like connecting with people that understand you, or maybe it's breath work, or maybe it's sound healing, or whatever is popular, or something like this. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's a men's retreat that involves understanding and talking with like-minded men to talk about like what masculinity truly is with men, building a tribe, doing something together in a tribe that creates something or provides something for somebody. Maybe it's about incorporating suffering into your life in an intentional way so that life doesn't throw it on you unintentionally when you're not prepared. So there's a lot of
so important, man.
Super important, right? So these things are, this is what we're trying to do. It's not just about healing work, like it's about giving people the ability to find their inspiration and purpose and authenticity so they can live the best life.
Super rad.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you so much. We're going to do this again. I joked about it being 50 episodes, but it might by the time you and I are done. We'll be two grumpy old men sitting here at some point. Or happy old men. Yeah. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, grumpy and happy.
Jeremy, if you're still alive, you're welcome here anytime.
Thanks, Ben. We broke it.
Yeah, we did it.
All right. Hey, nobody better to break it with. No offense to
brother.
you, Josh. I love you too, buddy.
I appreciate it. Come get me, Josh.
Yeah. So one more time, at Ben Strahan on Instagram.
Yep.
Website?
Ben at Moment Consulting LLC.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
There's my face. It's
Hell
beautiful.
yeah.
Right on, dude.
All right, dude. Let's hang out.
Yeah, let's do it.
It's not over yet.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for listening.
All right.
Jeremy, you good? Thank you, Jeremy,
Thanks, Jeremy,
for being here.
Yeah, word.
Thanks for listening to the Mountainside Podcast. If you haven't had a chance to do this already, please take a moment, follow, like, subscribe, or rate on whatever platform you catch the Mountainside Podcast at. Also, if you'd like some more information on upcoming episodes, safety tips, access to all of our affiliates, and all the badass discounts that we get here at the Mountainside Podcast, check out themountainsidepodcast.com.